Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you could all please take your seat. It is 7 o'clock. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. I have asked Ms. Gilhausen. She is going to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would stand with me. Father God, thank you for a new start to a new school year, for the fresh start that brings, Father. Your word tells us that your tender mercies are new every morning, and we thank you for that promise. Lord, we ask you that as we go into this next school year, Father, your word also says that you go before us, Father. We ask that your peace and your blessing would rest on each of our schools in this district, Lord, and that it would be a prosperous year for everyone. Be with us tonight as we deliberate. May our decisions and collaboration be effective and bring about good things for our district. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular school board meeting for August 27th, 2015. I'd like to welcome all the citizens of Clay County. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which you'll find located in the back of the room, and indicate the specific item, number, or the topic you wish to speak about and turn it in promptly. You can bring it right up here and hand it to Ms. Cornegie on the corner. Please note that no additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the discussion agenda. Your participation is welcome and appreciated. At this time, before we bring the adoption of the consent agenda, we do have one yellow card to speak to item C3 on the consent agenda. So I will let that person, Mr. Keith Nichols, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Just so everybody knows, C3 is the School Safety Florida District Assessment for 2015. And in case you don't understand, this is basically a self-assessment where we evaluate ourselves. Now, I do want to drop back to one item and bring this up. On page 74, question G, it says, the school district has a procedure to communicate to bus drivers information regarding registered sexual offenders and predators who reside near designated bus stops. This item was marked with a resounding yes, and in the 7 years that I have been driving bus, I have yet to receive notification of even one sexual predator living near any of my stops. The last year that I was driving regular ed, I actually had a student that was dropped off at my last stop on junior high that literally had to walk past the registered sexual offender's home to get home. And when I called to have that stop move, I was informed that the stop was within the Florida state guidelines. So from that point on, I basically would, as this young lady got off the bus, I would literally turn onto Pine Avenue and slowly creep down Pine Avenue, following her and watching her till she got into the house. So with that being said, you know, looking at this, I know it's a self-examination. I know that somebody sat there and gave these answers, but I want y'all to take it all with a grain of salt, because what it boils down to is that if we're evaluating ourselves, this could really be nothing more than just putting makeup on a pig. Thank you.
Mr. Nichols, could you tell me what page was that again, or what number was that?
That was on page 74, and it's question G.
Okay, thank you. Okay. 1 second. Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, I would like to bring the adoption of the consent agenda, but before we do, please note that item C4 has been pulled to discussion, and item C44 is being deleted. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have an approval, a motion from Ms. Gilhausen, and a second by Ms. Karakis. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Recognitions and awards. Coach Derek Cipolliti, is that how you say it?
We got close.
Cipolliti,
We got
I'm
close.
sorry.
Hey, good evening. Over the last year or so, we have honored and recognized numerous teachers and students in front of the board, and we're always proud to do that. In fact, it's always amazing when you look at the teachers' achievements and their dedication and the amount of energy they put into their craft. It's inspiring. And certainly when we look at the students, their work and all that they do in the classroom and in other activities, it's just amazing the students that we have here in Clay County. Tonight, however, we would like to recognize and honor one of our coaches. And as you know, athletics plays an important part in the development of our young people. In fact, studies show that many students achieve at a higher level when they participate in sports and other extracurricular activities. In Clay County, we're blessed to have great ADs, athletic directors, and great coaches. I'm sure that all of you are aware of the amount of hours that our coaches put in and the dedication that they show to our students and the parents. And so tonight, the district is honored to recognize one of those coaches, and that's Coach Derek Cipolliti.
Thank you.
Coach Cipolliti began his career at Orange Park High School. He went to Fleming Island High School for a couple years. He left the district for a head coaching job for a couple years, and then was hired back as the head football coach at Oakleaf High School. One of the good many hires that Mr. Broski made, so we'll give him a little bit of credit for that and everything. So good job, Mr. Broski. In fact, the school had such an outstanding year last year that Coach Cipolliti was selected as the 2014 National High School Athletic Association State Coach of the Year.
Wow.
That is quite an honor, folks. And so tonight, I want to give him just a few minutes to address the board, but please join me in congratulating Coach Derek Cipolliti.
I'm just totally humbled tonight. I do have to credit this man over to my right, Mr. Dave Broski. I was lucky enough to go to school in Clay County. I'm an Orange Park Raider. And so I wanted to make our school and our community proud as a player. I was able to come back as a teacher, as a young man, and quite frankly probably did not do my best at that time, because I had to learn what we were in this sport for, what we're in coaching for, in education. And basically through my exodus after I left the county for a little bit and went and did some other things, my philosophy came to be, winning is a byproduct of teaching life lessons and educating these boys, helping their family raise men. And that's what we've concentrated on. And, we flourished as an Oakleaf football program the last couple years, and hope to continue representing y'all in our county and Oakleaf community the same way. So thank you again, Mr. Broski. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your recognition.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Hey, where are you going, Ms. Levine?
Okay. Our next item is Student Spotlight, and Miss Lawless is going to come up and introduce.
Just for the record, they did not tell me I was going to speak. I teach engineering at Lakeside Junior High School. Mine is the feeder program to the Orange Park High School Engineering Academy. Last year I had 18 students who came up with experiments that were selected to go into space in the Cubes in Space program. And one of my students, Eden Antelak, was able to go to Virginia, and she has a presentation prepared for you this evening.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jordan, can you get it on this projector as well? Okay, he's working it. We're just waiting for them to get it up on this projector so everybody else can see. Here it comes. It's coming up now. Okay, great. Okay, you go ahead.
Cubes in Space, an iDoodle learning program, provides international students between the ages of 11 and 18 the opportunity to design an experiment to be sent into space, encouraging more involvement and interest in STEM education for students. It's really quite a wonderful program, as it not only gives students a chance to get involved in scientific experimentation and aerospace engineering, but enables them to do so at no cost to themselves or their teachers. Students submit experiment designs to travel on a sounding rocket or a high-altitude balloon, and, if accepted, receive feedback on their experiment and how it could be, or in some cases it needs to be improved. Of over 5,000 applications for the sounding rockets, only 80 were selected, 9 of which came from my classmates and 18 from fellow students of Miss Lawless.
Wow.
As a student in Mrs. Lawless's second-year Project Lead the Way Gateway to Technology class, I, along with the rest of my class, was told about the Cubes in Space project and instructed by my teacher to go do and create a submission. Mrs. Lawless providing us with great information and insight, helpful tips, and all of the necessary documents. I opted to work on the project with a classmate of mine, Zachary McNair, who is present at this meeting. After an indeterminate time period of half brainstorming, half researching, we came to the conclusion that it would be interesting and perhaps useful to see how well plasticine held up in space, as it is quite similar in physical properties to its more useful cousin, the moldable plastic. I was fortunate enough to be one of those whose experiment was accepted, and Mrs. Lawless shortly thereafter received small transparent cubes, in one of which my partner and I constructed our payload for the rocket. On the 24th of June, I went to Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, the capital of sounding rockets in the U.S., to exhibit my experiment, see the brilliant projects that the other students came up with, learn about the facility's own projects, and meet NASA engineers as well as many of the other people who played an integral part in the Cubes in Space program. At the Visitor Center, I met Amber A.G.D. Hart, President of iDoodle Learning, Robert Zoa, the iDoodle Learning CEO, and Joyce Winterton, Senior Advisor for Education and Leadership Development at NASA Wallops Flight Facility. There were also 7 other students from 4 groups present, each group manning an exhibit with a display board giving an overview of their experiment and answering visitors' questions. In general, people seemed quite interested in cubes in space and our individual projects. Students were later given the chance to present in the auditorium, and Randy Bowman, a homeschooled student from Leesburg, Virginia, was presented with a 2015 MPAC Group Top Design Award for his experiment on using the charged particles in the ionosphere to deacidify seawater. At 5 in the morning the next day, the Wallops Visitor Center opened once again, and the bleachers that had been set out were quickly filled by an eager crowd of space enthusiasts. Before the launch, cameras were set up and stories shared. Shortly after dawn, the countdown finished, a bright light suddenly becoming visible, and I realized that the rocket had launched successfully and would return after a few minutes. Our payload had taken flight. That Saturday, Wallops Flight Facility also celebrated its 70th anniversary with an open house. There were scavenger hunts, robotics activities and competitions, and as well as tents and displays, project information, and opportunities to speak to NASA, Air Force, Navy, and aerospace-related companies' personnel. There were tours of the island for those who booked in advance, as well as many other simulations, lectures, and exhibits that could be visited throughout the day, such as a guided tour of the building in which the rockets and their payloads are manufactured and tested, an interesting presentation by Dr. Joyce Winterton and Linda Sherman on how to become a NASA intern, and a self-guided tour of the balloon facility. All in all, this trip was a truly amazing experience, and I am greatly indebted to my engineering teacher, Mrs. Trudy Lawless, and Projects Lead the Way for enabling all of this to happen and opening up so many great opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
PowerPoint?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
was going to ask. Was there a PowerPoint that you were going to show, or?
Ms. Lawless is wanting to say something.
Okay. Miss Lawless, did you want to come up and?
Oh.
Okay, why don't we recognize them? Yeah.
Have them all come up.
Yeah, why don't we have them all come up, and let's recognize them. Miss Lawless, do you want to come up and introduce them by name?
And are these all junior high students?
Yeah.
High school?
High school, okay.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. All right, thank you very much. Okay, our next item is Garber Ford check presentation. Mr. Thomas Gerds, Assistant Principal at Middleburg High, I believe you're going to come and make the introduction.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Last year we had the wonderful opportunity to join together with Garber Auto Mall in a fundraising opportunity. It was very productive. It was a fun day. Middleburg High School was very appreciative to Gary Andrews for helping us out with that and joining with Middleburg and also the Academies of Clay. It was a real fun event, but I will let him talk to you a little bit about that.
Okay.
No, I'm glad we got to partner with the school. We had a great turnout, sounds like. It's the beginning of a good partnership, I hope. So future, we can do this once a year with a school. So we're going to try to do it again next year, and hopefully we get a lot more success and a little bit more money for the schools. So anyway, I got a check for $2,700 here. So
Outstanding. Woo, thank you. All right.
So just in case you did not participate in this year, it's a great opportunity to get to drive all sorts of cool vehicles. I was out of town that weekend. Now, I heard something about a really high-powered Mustang and only a few people got to drive it. They might let you guys drive it if you go, so just saying.
Is there a direct tie-in with a particular program at Middleburg High this is going in? I see Miss Stewart up here. She's following the money. That's good.
Actually, Gary and the Garber group decided to help support all of the academies at Middleburg High School. So all those academies got on board, and this was an event that basically helped the school as an entirety with each academy. And so that is why I'm up here, Mr. Van Zandt. So thank you very much, Gary. And
thank you.
We look forward to having a bunch more cars driven next year.
She wants to drive. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to make the last call for speaker cards before we move into the discussion agenda. Okay. We have no scheduled citizens requests. We will move into the discussion agenda. Superintendent's update. We'll start there.
Thank you, Ms. McKinnon. We have had just about the smoothest opening to school that I can recall. I know a lot of people are out there working hard every day to make it that way, so thank you. Your preparation has been rewarded with a great kickoff. We have gotten just an unprecedented amount of local news coverage lately, so we've prepared just about a 2-minute montage of some of the exciting things that others are talking about going on in Clay County. So if y'all would play that, I've got a few more comments when the film's over. While we're waiting on the technology, there's a great junior varsity football game going on right next door between Clay and Fleming Allen. If anybody wants to take a break and go catch a little bit of that, I've got a friend's son that's playing over there tonight. I'm just kidding. I really would like to hear. I heard the volume on this earlier today, and it's great. But while we're waiting for other people to talk about us, I'll just share with you a few of the things I was able to share with everybody that asked what's going on in Clay County. And in a room this big, there's certainly somebody that has not downloaded our app yet. If you go to my Play Store on your phone, and I won't be offended if you pull your technology out during the meeting and put in One Clay, ONECLAY, we have a great app. If you're a teacher, if you're a parent, grandparent, and want to know what's going on in your student's life.
Well, hey, guess what? Columbia and Clay County.
We ready? All right.
Well, hey, guess what? Columbia and Clay County students are back in the classroom for the new school year. Thousands crowded the hallways.
Clay County students are home tonight after their first day of school.
Well, hey, guess what? Columbia and Clay County students are back in the classroom for the new school year. Thousands crowded the hallways.
Clay County students are home tonight after their first day of school, and instead of binders and books, many kids will be using iPads and laptops.
Those kids might have noticed something different on their lunch tray.
Yeah, school officials are working to offer healthier foods as part of a push for healthier students.
Students in Clay and Columbia counties get ready to head back to school this morning. There is a new app that will help parents out.
Engaging the community, collaborative learning, and an increased focus on technology, they're all part of Clay County's plan.
Now Clay County is the first in Florida to go wall-to-wall with academies. That means students at every grade level in high school will pick a theme that guides their education.
The first in the nation to implement a new web platform. It makes it a lot easier to share important information with just a click of a mouse.
Schools are in the best shape they've ever been in.
Its graduation rate is above the national average. It's risen 7% in just 3 years.
Clay's graduation rate increased nearly 7%.
Graduation rate has risen 7% in the past 3 years, and for the first time, it's above the national average.
And one more exciting option that the superintendent mentioned is that they're going to have healthier lunch options this year in schools. He says there's a new law where they are now allowed to contract with local farmers, so they're hoping to have fresh produce and more healthy options for the students at lunchtime.
The school district serves more than 4 million meals each school year, and it goes above and beyond what's required by the federal government.
Clay County teachers and administrators have been doing training sessions like this all summer. They want to make sure everyone is on the same page as they get ready to expand their academy programs.
The district credits newer programs like Academies of Clay with keeping kids engaged in the classroom.
The classroom is becoming more hands-on and customized to fit the needs of each individual child.
Teachers collaborate to coordinate their lesson plans using the academy's theme to connect the dots between classes. Schools also partner with businesses for internships and job shadows. The impact goes outside of the classroom. The principal here is actually hoping more people move to Clay County so their students can attend these academies.
That last clip was a training for Bronco Nation Days at Middleburg High School. Middleburg, like so many of our schools this year, just flat knocking it out of the park. And we've got a lot to be proud of, and it was kind of made me well up a little bit to just continually have the news channels around Jacksonville and the ones that we watch here in Clay County calling to want to know what we were doing as we are going back to school. And thanks to a lot of our Clay County School District family that's here tonight, I'm looking out at teachers and support staff and administrators, people that work in the instructional division as coaches. You guys have just been getting on it the first 2 weeks, and I'm so thankful for you because that gives us good things to talk about when people are asking what's going on in Clay County. And there's no doubt we would not be where we are in Clay County in our school district, in such a high-performing district, if it wasn't for you guys' hard work every day. And with that, I'd like to just recap a couple of little items that are going on right now. As you know, we got a lot to brag about what's going on in the classroom. That comes with people there doing the work. Everybody we have that works with us here in this school district has a price tag attached with their work, and we're happy to pay what we pay, and we'd love to pay them even more. In order to do that, we're going to have a little bit more revenue. We've done a lot of things to right our ship financially the past couple of years. To include this past year, we took about $1 million out of our central office budget, our district level administrators, to right our financial ship. Now, that wasn't any fun. It certainly wasn't any fun for me as I sat down with people I've known for decades and asked them to go ahead and retire and consolidate jobs and parse up district staff jobs to other people that are still in the district. But we did that, and it reduced our costs there by nearly $1 million. We're optimistic that our financial outlook will improve. Our enrollment has increased some. We're over projections as we've come into this school year with the number of students who've shown up. But even with any projection that I can forecast of increased funding, we still have some things that we have to overcome. Last year, we were over projection and had an increase in our FEFP of over $7 million, and that's great. And then we have to look at our expenditures on the other side of that revenue. We've paid out about $2.6 million, or we will this year, to charter schools in Clay County. Our self-insured fund ran a deficit of about $1.2 million, And to get that self-insurance fund to the right required minimum balance on top of the 1.2, we have to add about $1.5 million. Our McKay scholarships came in higher than ever last year. We had never had more than $1.8 million in McKay scholarships to pay out. Last year we had to pay out about $2.5 million. And last year, as many of you know, was a big year to go into the Florida retirement system and come out of it. And we had a lot of senior people in all ranks of our employee groups, administrators, instructional personnel, and support all exit our school system last year, and that cost us about $3.1 million in terminal leave pay. And all that on top of our ending fund balance for the 14-15 school year, when you take into account the expenditures I just mentioned, leaves us with about 2.1%. So as we work into the 15-16 budget that'll be brought to the board in September, we still have to get to that state required 3%. So that's what we're aiming at. Last year, our numbers we submitted, and those are called projections, for the 15-16 school year were right at 35,594, and we're using those numbers, those exact numbers, just less than 35,600 students, to prepare the budget that'll be presented next month. And the really important thing to remember about these student counts and FTE counts is none of this, we're into the third week of school now, none of this gets submitted to the Department of Education to be actioned until the month of October. So at that point, the state will do something they call recalibration. They start taking portions of our FTE and they pull away things for dual enrollment. We pay college tuition for students of Clay County. For things like Florida Virtual, the state really slices and dices up all those FTE, and all the while they're making edits and corrections and doing things to ensure that the numbers we give them are actually the number of the students that we have in the seats. So the best calculation, we have a recalibrated calculation from the Department of Education, like every other school district in Florida, 4 times a year, is that fourth calculation. At that point, which that'll come out late April, I think it came out April 20th this past year, if I remember correctly, we'll have a fairly good handle, the best possible handle, on what we'll be able to do in terms of any increased compensation at the time we get that fourth calculation next spring. But since we truly don't know our dollar amount or what our increased enrollment will actually do, we are certainly willing to come back to the bargaining table after the fourth calculation and address compensation for support and instructional people. But to do so now, this early in the year, would put us well below 2%, and that's not acceptable. 2% unreserved fund balance, our savings account, if you will. So to kind of sum it up, you can't really count your chickens before they hatch. We're hoping lots and lots of them hatch, and I assure you we will be prepared to come back once we've reached that 3% state mandated minimum and talk compensation if we have that. But my job and my responsibility goes past our 36,000 students and past our 5,000 members of our Clay County School District family that work and support and educate and feed those students every day and do all the wonderful things that happen for them, to almost 200,000 people that live in Clay County now. So I can't take a leap with their money until we verify it. So it's trust but verify, and we have a whole lot of faith, but my faith doesn't rest in the Department of Education or recalibration or FTE or any of those things. My faith rests in God, and I believe that those who do a good job in this county will have a job. I know that's on some people's minds. I've said that since I've come into office, and everybody that has wanted to stay, pretty much with very, very few exceptions, has been able to stay and work in Clay County. So that's kind of a recap of where we are financially, and those are some numbers, and that's kind of dry. But I'd like to just take another moment or two and tell you my story, because a few of the things that have circulated have disturbed me, and I would hate to think anybody would think that I didn't want to compensate our employees more. So if you would indulge me for just a minute, I'd like to tell you about my life with the Clay County school system. My family moved here when I was in 5th grade. My mother was ill, And the community of Keystone Heights, the teachers that work there, the guidance counselors, the coaches as I progressed into junior high and senior high, and my mother departed this world, those were people that really invested in me and my family. So I still see those people. Some of them still work here. Most of the people that taught or coached me are retired. Many of their children still work in the Clay County school system. So for somebody to insinuate or think that just to begrudge our fine employees of a raise if we had the money to do it would just not be right. In fact, quite the contrary would be true. When I taught and became a school board member in 1998, I think my pay stub said about $25,000 annually. I think that's what a first-year teacher made in the late 90s. Our starting teacher salary now is 50% higher than that. It's around $38,000. So I personally have a track record, and so do some of the members of this board that have been here a while, of giving raises when that revenue showed up. So I just want to recap and reiterate that if the money shows up, if we meet our minimum financial obligations in terms of reserves, this district, this school board will be happy to come back and talk compensation. So that's my update on where we are budget-wise, compensation-wise, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Zant.
I have a question. Mr. Van Zant, you said our student enrollment is up. What are we looking at? What are our numbers as of the most recent today? Or whatever you've got. What's the most recent that you have?
Was today our 10-day? No.
Tomorrow would be.
Tomorrow would be our 10-day.
Mr. Hendrick, they're right at, and these are student numbers. They're between 35.5 and 36. And somebody has showed me that today. I just don't have the number on the top of my head. But I'll be glad to email you guys tomorrow, put it on our website. I'll put it on Facebook. Hey, our 10-day count is blah, whatever that is. Now, the important thing to remember about those student numbers is in the last 2 years, one student in one class doesn't always equal one full FTE the way the state recalibrates. So now you'll hear those of us, and certainly Mr. Hendrick, who's counts all that FTE and electronically transmits it to the Department of Education, an FTE, the full-time equivalent dollars for a student, does not equal that student. If that student takes 6 periods a day at Orange Park High, a dual enrollment class, and a Florida virtual class, which they can all take without asking permission, then we write a check to St. John's, Embry-Riddle, Florida Virtual, whoever they're taking that dual enrollment or virtual class with. So we end up with pieces of an FTE. A child like I just described, we would keep 3/4 or 6/8 of their FTE, and approximately 1/8 would go to a college and 1/8 would go to Florida Virtual. So when I do say how many students were in seats, it takes a lot longer to figure out how much of that student's time is spent with us and how much it might be spent, especially in the secondary levels. But we have my incoming 7th grader is taking Clay Virtual Science, so he cost us 7/6 of an FTE. We only get 6/6, but he's taking an extra class because he's a motivated little smart kid, and that just happens. So I'm glad to offer those
So
opportunities.
you said our projection was 35,944?
35,594.
594.
And what did we end the school year with? How many did we have at the end of the school year last year?
Maybe
I'm trying to figure out if we've increased any in students.
I don't have that exact number. It was around 35, mid-35.5.
Could we ask Ms. Cornegay if she knows that number?
You can ask Mr. Hendrick maybe. Do you have that with you? I know he's the one that hits go on the transmission, unless you've got it.
As a matter of fact, I do know that number,
Okay.
sadly enough. It's 35,524 as it stands right now. But please remember,
That's now or the end of the
that
school
was,
year?
and we're not even done with 14-15 yet.
Right.
DOE is still calculating. We still have a survey period that is open for 14-15, and that's survey 4. Once we finish the survey 4 edit window, DOE will then give us a final count, and that's when we'll know the actual number.
Well, let me ask you this. Could you guess, do we have more students now than we did the last day of school? Do we go up any, or do you think it's going to be about the same?
If I were to guess, I would say yes, because historical trends are we always have more students in the fall than we do the spring. But right now, as it sits for 14-15, we're at 35,524. Now, that's no accident that that's close to our projection number, because even though we're allowed to project to DOE, we're also very closely governed by what we can project. So we can't go way over or way under. DOE will call us and has called us to ask us why we are projecting over or under.
So just so I'm clear, the 35,524, that's what we have as of day 10?
No,
No,
that
no.
was the
That was
end
the
of
end of last year. Okay, but we don't know what we have as of
No,
today.
that's project.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Hendricks? You mentioned Survey 4. Would you explain it? Does that mean, is that the virtual school that we're waiting on, or what is that exactly?
Primarily, that's the virtual. There are other elements. There's Survey 4, Survey 5, there's tons of surveys. If you saw our board,
We're only
you would be-
waiting on the 4.
Correct.
And so when do they normally get that back to us?
The end of the Survey 4 edit period, I believe, is the end of this month, the end of August, and then they typically have a few days to run their tabulations and calculations, and then they'll allow us to go in and start pulling down our official numbers from Survey 4, and then I think it's around October when we get the final calc for
Okay.
14-15.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else, Mr. Van Zandt? Okay. The next item up is item C4. This was pulled from the consent agenda, and this is for information only. It was pulled by Ms. Karakis.
Were there any cards that we need to hear from?
Oh. No. No cards.
I pulled this because Ms. Cornegay, you did a great job.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Otto, can you please take your seat? Mr. Otto, can you please take your seat? You are not permitted to come up and address her. Would you please... oh, you did? This is not item number 3. Item number 3 did not get pulled. Item number 3 was already addressed in the consent agenda. I put you at the end.
Ms. Cornegay, I just want to compliment you on a fine job you did of putting this together, and apologize for not giving you any input beforehand. I know we're kind of all guilty of that, and so we did have a conversation, Ms. Cornegay and I, about how I thought that this maybe needed to be tweaked. So I just wanted to share my concerns and recommendations, and then I wanted to hear from the rest of the board. I think this is great, and I know that this was a recommendation from the accreditation advanced ed that we need to have this. I kind of feel really strong, though, that this really truly needs to be a citizens group. I don't think we need to have a board member on it. I don't think we need to have any administrators on it. I think the one district representative should be the deputy superintendent, Ms. Cornegay, to lead the group. I would like to see this done where each board member chooses 2 people from their district, maybe 1 business partner, 1 parent. That would be 10 people, and then Ms. Cornegay. And if she needs to bring in somebody from elementary ed, she can schedule it. Or Ms. Legutko to discuss the budget, she can discuss it. And that way it's really the citizens giving us their input, and the conversation's not led or directed by any type of agenda. And by each of us picking 2 people, it's going to be a diverse group. I mean, it's going to be a diverse group. And who knows how many people will even want to be on it. We may have a hard time finding 10 people who want to do this, especially if it's a 2-year commitment. And I don't remember, is it meeting once a month, Ms. Cornegay, or quarterly? I'm not sure what. And of course that could all be decided by the board.
Sure.
But this is why I pulled it. I know years ago they had this. I was always on the school advisory committees for my kids. You probably all have been too. And I do remember on occasions where the conversation was led more by the administrators than the SAC committee, and I don't want to see that happen. I want to see this really be the community. I don't want to see relatives of board members or spouses of principals. I think it really needs to be parents and business partners in the community that sit on this. So I'll listen to the rest of the board. Anybody has any input on it?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Studdard.
Okay, let me pull out my old-timer hat here. About 24, 25 years ago, I was president, and Orange Park Elementary had a PTA at the time. All the other schools had a PFA, but they still had a PTA. And George Bush was sitting in my school board seat. and he appointed me to what we called a Citizens Advisory Committee on Education. We met in Green Cove in the old school board office. I phoned someone who I remembered was on that to try to refresh my memory on it as to how we did it. And what happened, I found out, is when the law changed and said that each school was to have a SAC, it kind of took away from the county committee, and over time it just fizzled. People just quit coming. There was, you'd go and there'd be, 3 or 4 people there. But there was this committee, and back then there were no staff members on it, except I think the deputy superintendent led it, which would be appropriate. And so I just want you to know we're redoing this. It doesn't have to be done like it was done before. I obviously do not have paperwork from 25 years ago, and I'm trying to remember the way it was. But let's go back for the audience's benefit to the Advanced Ed report that determined that we would be an accredited school district. If you'll bear with me, I think it's important for the public to understand what we're trying to do.
Okay.
In their rationale and recommendations, I'd like to read you from 3 different pages. Interviews with internal and external stakeholder groups and a review of artifacts indicate a structure to consistently include advisory groups in the continuous improvement process is not present. Another line, stakeholders state the limited engagement of external stakeholders does not provide opportunities for a meaningful exchange of ideas from parents and other community members. On another page, they said interviews with internal and external stakeholder groups and review of artifacts indicate a structure to consistently include here we go, it's the same thing as not present. There was little evidence that they are utilized effectively to inform the development of the strategic plan and support the design of new initiatives. Artifact review supports this finding. Stakeholders state the limited engagement of external stakeholders does not provide opportunities for a meaningful exchange of ideas from parents and other community members. All right, and then on the last page that refers to this, under improvement priorities, this accreditation team said, formulate and implement a comprehensive district plan that includes representatives from all stakeholder groups to assist in shaping decisions, providing feedback in the development of the strategic plan, working collaboratively on system improvement efforts, and to participate in meaningful, intentional, two-way communication. So what they're saying is that we need more community input, not only from the parents and the community, but also the business leaders. They did say in different parts in this report that we do have a good many business partnerships and so forth, but that's a little bit different from this that would be working on, if there was something going on in curriculum or facilities or the strategic plan. It's a different thing. But then, Ms. Cornegie, I too want to thank you for at least getting us started on this, because I know you asked for input from all 5 board members, and I would venture to guess that you probably did not get any from many of us. But in looking at it, I've got no problem with it, except my feeling about it is that I would like to see this truly be something from the community, so that the next time we have an accreditation review, that we have got people who are giving us input. It seems that there's not a lot of avenue for them, the citizens, to give us input. I know that the schools have SAC committees, but honestly, how many times do you get a call from somebody from a SAC committee about something, their particular SAC committee. I can honestly say I have never received one phone call about that. It's like the line of communicate, it's cut there. But what I would like to throw out, and I am certainly flexible, but what I would like to throw out is to try to have an odd number committee. If the and I did find out today in talking to the person who used to be on it, each board member appointed 2 people to the committee. So in my pea brain, I was thinking, well, you know what? If each board member appointed 2 parents of kids, maybe one parent from an elementary school in your district and one from a secondary school, junior high or high school, from your district, that would kind of get us, you know, 5 secondary parents and 5 elementary parents. Then I was thinking about the other, get 5 more on there. Each of us appoint another person, perhaps from the business community or even a community leader. And I wouldn't say business owner, absolutely. It could be someone who works in a bank, you know, and they're active in the community. But I think we could find someone that would put 15 on there. And then if Ms. Cornegay, I think it's appropriate that she would lead this committee if that's the superintendent's choice, but it makes sense. But have that as a non-voting position, so you've truly got recommendations that might come from the Citizens Advisory Committee or District Advisory Committee, whatever we do call it, that is really giving us input so that when they come to the board, and you know, I don't know if a parent who is on the SAC committee at their particular school would be interested in doing this. That would be one more meeting for them. But you know, sometimes parents are really active, and one more meeting, it would be a way for them to bring information from their school SAC to this committee. But also I would like to see the communication opened up so that the SAC committees in all the schools know that this is a district committee, that if they in their school are having a problem, they can bring it to the committee or a concern, and then through this county committee, it may be that that same concern is in several other schools. So it would be a good communication network, but I would rather be at something like that rather than having to me, that kind of takes away from what I was interpreting that the accreditation team was looking for. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Now, years past, I will say this, I remember we had a student representative on there, but I will be very honest, I do not believe that the student ever came to a meeting. But, you know, by the time they go to school all day and they're involved in activities and so forth, and really, I think that it was probably not worth it to do that. I mean, I'm open for whatever, but I'm just trying to think of some of the things.
You know, Ms. Studdard, one of those student representatives sits right down here at the end of our dais.
Well, he never came when I was there.
I think I predated Miss Studdard. She said she's old enough to be my mother, and that may be true, but I think she was only a CAC committee member probably the year after I graduated and joined the Guard. I don't remember meeting you back then, and I would remember. I remember Charlie Mount and Bill Elrod, because they were both in the Guard. One of them flew helicopters. Next thing I know, I'm in basic training. That's what I got out of that
I do have a question for you, Ms. Studdard.
Yeah.
So you talked about like voting members. It's my understanding that there wouldn't be any voting.
Well, it's
what
not,
do they vote on?
I mean, it's not really voting. Like if they are, say for instance, they're, oh gosh, let's go way back. Back in the old days, there was something called Pumsey-Do-So. I hate to even say those words, but say there was something going on in curriculum or anything. The only voting that they would be doing would be coming forth as perhaps something, a recommendation to bring to the school board. It's an advisory committee.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. That's okay. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Ms. Gilhausen, I know that many meetings ago, and my memory may not be the best, but you had mentioned this kind of thing. In fact, you have several times, I think, talked about it. And so I would imagine that you had input. I remember Ms. Cornegie asking to get with you on that. But so I just wondered how this would, with what you were picturing, how would this model with it?
Ms. Cornegie and I met a couple times to discuss some of this, and honestly, we collaborated together quite a bit, and I thought this was a great plan. But of course, if you guys have concerns over that, I'm certainly open to, you know, whatever suggestions you guys have. This is, you know, a collaborative work, so I think that everybody's opinion is valid. But I was kind of on the same page with Ms. Cornegay.
Okay. Did you want to go first, and then I'll wait? I have a tendency to agree with you. Was my understanding in terms of the, and no, she's looking at me, what?
You agree with who?
I'm agreeing with you, Mr.
Oh, dear God, y'all mark it down. Miracles do happen.
Come on now.
Hallelujah.
No, let me just say, because it was also my understanding of the intent as well of the accreditation team, because we all met with them, we all interviewed with them, we all sat here, we heard their recommendations, and that was sort of my takeaway as well. And I know we all got an email, I think this week, I think most of us got an email regarding some recommendations on this from a citizen
I didn't.
of our community. You didn't?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, some of us did. But anyway, those were some of the concerns that were mentioned in the email, and quite frankly, I hadn't, you know, I'm not familiar with how these advisory...
I do know the email you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay. Got you.
So anyways, as I read through it, some of the things in there seemed very plausible to me, and I was going to be completely open to see how you guys all felt about it. But I think that makes sense. I think that having one district representative, being Ms. Cornegay or whoever the superintendent designates, and then the rest of them being citizens, business leaders, you know, because we do still have the SAC committees. And they can, you know, they can collaborate. And the idea is that you are creating a network, and so you've got all those different SACs feeding their information up to the district advisory committee, and then you have, that's where your citizen, true citizen input is. So
I did want to add one more thing that I forgot. Say, for instance, there was something coming up. Say we hit a growth spell, and, you know, we're getting to building schools again, or 1 or 2 a year like we used to. Maybe there's some facility question about why we're doing this, that, or the other. Then what we could request through Ms. Cornegay or whoever is the chairman is to ask the superintendent or Ms. Cornegay to arrange for Mr. Merrill to come and do a presentation. If it was something dealing with curriculum, we would say, Mr. Umbaugh, come over there and tell us about it. You got it. I know he'd take good care of us. If it was something to do with money, which is eternal in this district, we would have Ms. Legutko to come, and this would give the citizens an opportunity to hear from an expert to do that presentation so that they can vet it and fully understand some of the issues that might be coming to the school board. I can't see it being anything but a win-win. I do want to add one thing. We got the revised version of the application, but these schools are wrong.
Yeah.
Because after we redistricted in 2010, I believe I picked up some other schools. This was from before 2010.
This is old. Patterson.
So we need to
District
redo.
1, Orange Park.
Because I don't have Patterson anymore, and I do think I have Orange Park High School. Because my district now goes east and west.
Yeah.
So we would have to clean that up.
I know I went from like 13 schools down to 7 in District 4.
I used to didn't have any. Look there, you know.
Okay, so
I like the model that Mrs. Studdard is talking about with a secondary and an elementary ed parent, and then a business partner. I'd like to hear what you think of that, but I like that model.
do. I do too.
I would agree with that. I think that was kind of what Ms. Cornegay and I had talked about, was ensuring that we are getting adequate citizen input, but we're also having the experts lead the discussion. Not that they're, you know, pushing their viewpoint so much as just there's so much state statute and rules that go around the decisions that and as long as we do that, I think that it's a great plan.
And I think it would work, and that's not putting any employee on the spot too. It just seems neater.
Yep. So let me ask, Ms. Cornegay, what do you foresee as, you know, when will this be posted for people? How long will it be out there? When do you expect to receive them back? You know, a deadline or anything like that? Is there any timeline set up for it?
Well, we'd have to have it on the agenda for next month's meeting.
Right. So are you thinking maybe like the first of the year, or what's your plan as to when you'd like to implement it?
So the plan was to get the application approved this evening, so I'll make the changes once you've decided, and
We can't
really
do
need to
that
vote on
because
it,
it's
so-
not an action item.
But I've captured your thoughts, so I will send you the revisions tomorrow. And then if you'll look on page 2, and I did get feedback from 2 of you on the process, and you felt as though since you would be the decision maker for your district and identifying those folks, that you'd like it emailed directly to you. So if they're applying for District 1 representation, then they would send those directly to Ms. Karakis, so I provided their email addresses. So here's the plan for this. Once you've looked at it and said, yep, you got it, let's go ahead and put it out there. I had hoped to do that within the next day or two. I met with Mr. Hendricks and Mr. Rollins this week. We talked about what would be the best process for that. So he's going to, Mr. Rollins is going to put on our website, thank you, a community engagement slide that will have a link to the application with some explanation. So they'll click on the link, they'll go in, actually complete it, they'll save it, and then email it to you. And I have the deadline for that as September 14th. That way it would be prior to the next school board meeting, and you could bring your recommendations at that time.
Well, we'd have to change that though, because this is not an action item tonight, so we can't vote on approving
We
this
can't
application.
even approve this until next month. It's for information only tonight.
I think what she's saying is she'll go ahead and make all the changes to it and then bring it to us.
She said she was going to go ahead and send out the
Can't send it out to
applications. We can't do that until we have to take official action to form this committee. It's going to slow it down a month. But let's do it right.
Okay.
So what I hear you saying, I'm going to send you the revisions. We'll put it on the agenda for next month for you to approve. And if you have any feedback again between now and then in terms of the process, let me know. And we'll certainly make those revisions as well. So,
Okay,
but the plan is to get it out on the website. We'll push it out via our app. It'll be on our Facebook page and Twitter feeds so that the public will see that the opportunity exists for them to go on and apply.
After the September meeting?
After the September meeting, in hopes that we'll be ready to roll by mid-October then. In the meantime, I have scheduled through each of the schools an opportunity to meet with each of their SAC committees. I did 2 last week, just to begin the conversations and talking to them about this opportunity as well. So I'll be busy the next several weeks meeting with all those SAC folks, and so it's having some great conversation already, so I'm excited about the opportunity to continue it.
And
So if we approve it in September, then we could bring our names to the October meeting. That would give us from September to October to get. I'm sure we're just going to get inundated.
Yeah. So let me ask you a
applicants.
question. So, do I understand you that you're saying that members of the SAC committee can also be on this committee as well?
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I'm just asking.
If they want to come to another meeting, because I'm assuming they'll meet monthly.
When I've been on the SACs, they are very specified on what they can talk about. So it's basically the school improvement plan, the focus of, how they're going to increase, well, it used to be FCAT scores, but I guess FSA scores, and then when there was money that was given to each, then it was how to spend it on specific items that matched up with the school improvement plan. So it was not, what do you think about this, or it wasn't, what is your opinion of how we set up, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think
I'm
they're
just
so
thinking, is there
different
no
that if
is there no
someone was
conflict of
willing,
interest, right?
yeah, if someone was willing to do it, why not? But
I think we'll be hard pressed to find 15 people to do it, honestly.
Okay.
I can't imagine them wanting to take on another meeting a month, but certainly we could. Ms. Cornegay, how often will they be meeting?
That will be what the committee will decide. I just put on here in terms of the responsibilities that they will attend regularly scheduled committee meetings, and I think the group will decide how often that needs to be.
Yeah, okay. That's good to leave that open. All right, thank you. And
I do have one last question as soon as you're done.
I'm finished.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this something that needs to go into policy? Do we need to have a policy on the process of this, or do we have I don't think we have a policy for this, do we?
You could put in policy that we have a committee
At
and
least
what
that
its
it's a
function
process,
and role
right?
is.
What its
yeah.
function is, roles and responsibilities, and then the process for electing and selecting and whatever. Is that something that we should?
Well,
I just don't want it to slow it down.
No, I don't want to slow it down
I
either.
just thought of one other thing.
Will be
I
a
think
process.
before they were appointed for 3-year terms. I personally think that's too long a commitment. So we would need and I guess we can decide this in September when it's officially an action item, but we need to decide, you know, how long the term's gonna be and so forth.
Makes sense. If it is put into policy, it would just be how we choose it. That
Right,
each-
exactly,
right.
just the
So
selection.
we would have to have the policy written and advertise it at the September meeting, approve it at the October meeting, and then that would.
That'll
put us
all
back.
kind of coincide together.
But we could go ahead and do it
Right.
and be doing the,
Right.
you know, actually getting it into policy.
Yeah, we can implement the
We could
policy
do-
afterward, right? Yeah.
And it might be good to have that written as to.
Sure.
And it might be good because we'll probably learn things that we might want to change. We've got to think through this, because this is, you know, it's just like building a house. You're gonna might have to tweak it a little bit here.
Okay, all right. So we're good on this?
Yes, and
Okay.
it was just informational.
Yes, Mr. Van Zant, one clarifying question.
Okay, so we're going to put something together to be voted on by the school board in September as far as this process, and Ms. Cornegie's taking copious notes. I think
We're
we
gonna have a
captured
committee.
your collective thoughts there. As far as in this action item that'll come before you next month, do we want to write in a line that says each board member shall appoint 3 members? Somebody mentioned bringing those 3 names with you next month, and just leave it at that, versus...
You can't, we really can't do that because they can't fill out the application.
No, I'm not asking to get the board members before next meeting. I'm asking a question. Where I'm going with this is, the way we word the action item that will come before you, whoever board member District 1 brings, they're going on there. The board's not going to vote on and vote up and down on those 3 members, or is that your expectation? I just need to clarify that.
Not in September.
No,
We would have to.
the question
No,
is if
I'm
you
saying if you bring
3
names in
people,
October.
do we have to vote on your 3 people and then vote on Ms.
In
Gilhouse?
October, we could vote on everybody's 3.
But I guess what I'm
Or
hearing
just word it
is,
where, if you're a school board member, you get to appoint. I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, really, and I don't know anyone in your.
Well, I may vote on somebody you just don't like.
But the whole point is to have
I know what
diversity.
Mr. Van Zant said.
He's talking about appointments versus all of us voting for who goes on it. Is that right? He's
Yeah,
talking about appointments.
I would suggest each of you just, we word something in September where whoever the 3 y'all bring, go on it.
We're going to appoint
And
them,
we'll
right?
blame you individually, but not have people
But
pick and
I
choose
think
like
it ought to be on there so that the names
Sure.
are there so we can do a blanket approval.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to go through Joe
Mr.
Smith
Van
and
Zant's
Sally
thinking
Jones
what the Charter
and
Review Committee
discuss
does,
their
where they
merits.
can actually vote down each person.
Okay, all right,
that
okay.
If they wanted to. Yeah, no, I
Okay,
don't.
so we're good?
I think so. That's the consensus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's.
We'll figure
I think
it out.
that's fine.
Okay, all right. All set? Okay. All right, we're going to move into, the next item is item D2, Human Resources Special Action A. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item up is item D3, Human Resources Special Action B. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion by Ms. Karakis.
Second.
And a second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item up is item D4, Special Action C. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion by Ms. Condon
I'll second.
and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Our next item up is item D5. This is a public hearing to approve as advertised the 2015-16 Code of Conduct. Now I have a yellow card on this, but I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing first, and then you can comment on it. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing to approve the advertised 15-16 Code of Student Conduct. And I have a card here by Eric Horning. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
And pull the mic up and you won't have
Yeah.
to lean over.
There you go.
My name is Eric Horning, and I'm addressing the D5 clause, the code of conduct.
No, your home address, where you live.
Yes, state your name
Oh,
and address
address.
for the record.
I'm sorry about that. I live 2620 Shenandoah Drive South.
Okay.
Like my photo, okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the school board and ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I would like to thank you for allowing me to come up here and speak this evening. I want to present, I'm Eric Horning. I'm an IB senior at Ridgeview High School, and I am representing a great deal of students from Ridgeview High School. 350 plus have already voiced their support for what I'm up here talking about. We want to argue for a 1 or 2 day special exception to the dress code rule about tank tops, and what we call Tank Top Tuesday at TM. We want to first bring up the heat of Florida. I don't need to tell anybody here about the heat of Florida. The temperatures are high, especially during the late summer, springtime, and even sometimes during the winter when we get those random hot days. Along with the humidity, which doesn't allow the human body to fully cool down because we can't evaporate our sweat. Along with the body heat of all the other hundreds and hundreds of students in the school, the AC doesn't always work. The student dress code is not exactly the same as the teacher dress code, and they also have the luxury of sitting inside for most of the time, whereas we have the transition between classes and the portables that AC doesn't work. The comfortability that sacrifices, the heat of Florida, creates a harder to learn environment, an uncomfortability. I personally can't learn in an uncomfortable environment, and I can probably say the same for a lot of students, especially with our focus. And schools are meant to be for facilitating learning. So this distraction caused by the heat would be even more so than the actual clothing that we are trying to have. I also want to bring up that the school board's student code of conduct states that it's your philosophy and intent to prepare us for college, the workforce, and things like that. Well, post-secondary schools majoritarily don't have a dress code. Exactly, yeah. That's all I need to say about that. In the workforce, as most of us here tonight are professional business attire or a uniform of some sort, which is extremely strict, and the school board of Clay County doesn't really follow that strict of a dress code. So the implementation of that strict of a dress code kind of throws off the necessity for something as small as that. Now, what we're asking is, we're not trying to incite anarchy. We're not trying to dismantle your code of conduct because we respect your authority. We just want a special day where, maybe once a week or every couple weeks, where we could wear tank tops and have an easier and comfortable learning environment, which we do, my friend Taj and I call Tank Top Tuesday. Thank you.
Tank Top Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, we ought to put him on the district advisory committee.
Let's see.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak while we have this public hearing open?
I second his motion. Renly Paiva, President of the CCEA, 2467 Baywood Court, Orange Park, Florida. We work together with the district on the code of conduct, and I can, again say Francis does a great job with pulling the committee together and getting things done. I have two comments that I still am concerned about, and one is the ability for teachers, and it's logistical, ability for teachers to correct their own referrals. Right now we don't have that ability, so teachers write out a referral, and sometimes they're not always in a good frame of mind when they do it, and they send it, and once they send it, they can't call it back and say for grammatical errors or anything, call it back for anything. And I would like us to work on that to see if there's some way that IT can work around that so teachers can call back their referral and make corrections. As it stands now, they have to ask the administrator to make the corrections, and I think legally, they're the ones that wrote it, they're the ones that should make the correction. So I'd like us to work on that. And the other thing that I would like us to work on is a recommendation for discipline by statute. The teacher has the ability to recommend the discipline, and there's a whole statutorial summary of what the administrator then has to do and go into consultation with teachers. There's not a drop-down box for that, and I was hoping that both of these issues can happen and make it easier for teachers to write referrals and also recommend the discipline of the referrals. But other than that, again, I congratulate Francis Sellis for putting together this team and working so hard, diligently on it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to look at those changes that she's talking about? Mr. Van Zandt?
We can look at them for next year. I would advise that we adopt tonight what we've got tonight. And there's some other reasons Ms. Condon might even go into later that we discussed, but students are in. They've signed paperwork saying they're going to obey the student code of conduct. I can go into later the reasons why that comes to you a little bit after school starts, but I would advise the board, it would be my thought, you should go ahead and adopt this tonight and take these things into consideration for next year.
Even if we do adopt it, it sounds like it's just procedural stuff to make things easier for them. That's not really going to change anything in our code of conduct. A drop-down box for this and being able to...
I would want that staffed first and bring you a thoughtful recommendation. Sure.
Could you talk to staff and see if it's something and bring it back to us next month so that, if it's a small little minor change that's going to make their world a little easier, let's at least do that if we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also, could you include, let the staff think about let the staff consider the Tuesday tank top day?
The staff can consider that, and I could give you lots of advice on why that's probably not a great idea either. So
I think it's a great idea.
One of the reasons I'm glad that I'm raising boys, and so did you.
Okay. All right. We'll just leave it at that.
It was a great try.
I'm sitting here listening, and the young man is right. It's hot in Florida and everything, but when you go to the mall and take a teenage girl to buy clothes, I know what that's like too. But the trouble is, if we say, okay, you can wear tank tops,
you would have to put
the next thing you're gonna have to have, like, it's got to be so many inches wide. Because
Garments
we're going to
underneath?
see a lot of undergarments that we don't want to see.
All right.
And
Enough
then
said.
and I absolutely don't want to see middle thing. But it says the shirts must cover the shoulder. Does that mean a sleeveless top isn't accepted?
Is it no
I think that's correct. I'm looking at it right now.
Is Miss Sellick, who would be the one? I want to clarify that, because it says shirts must cover the shoulder and not expose undergarments in any manner or the midriff. But now,
I think
surely they can wear
can we
sleeveless
get somebody
shirts.
to address that, Mr. Van Zandt?
But can they wear sleeveless shirts?
Mr. Umball, would you like that one?
Somebody.
Address that.
Is
Miss Ellis?
Come on up, Miss Segreto. Thank
Come on up. There you go, Miss Segreto.
Hey, says it's your
We'll get
student,
right with
you
you,
get to
sir.
answer the questions. I mean, I'm curious. I saw that cover the shoulder, and I thought, in Florida?
I think
Hi,
it's just
I'm
the
Debbie
top of the
Segreto, principal at
shoulder.
Ridgeview High School. First, I'd like to commend my student for coming up here, following the proper procedure. Him and Taj put this together today at noon. I am very proud of them.
Yeah.
I can tell you at Ridgeview, this shirt must cover the shoulder, and I don't know if you've been
Do you
shopping.
mean no sleeveless?
Well, the girls' fashions today, you can get a very small cap sleeve, we call it, and a lot of the girls wear the cap sleeve. I will tell you that a lot of kids complain about their air conditioning being too cold in some of our classrooms. So I have a lot of kids with jackets, even sweatshirts. I've seen them at this time of year.
Okay.
So
I want to
that's where I
understand. You're saying they cannot wear sleeveless shirts?
if it covers the shoulder, comes right to the edge of the shoulder, which
I mean,
is right here on
I'm
the
just
arm.
talking about it like
So it would be
you and I have sleeveless shirt. Or
Right. If it comes to the edge of the shoulder, then it's sleeveless. because it just comes to the shoulder. There's no sleeve, so they can wear that. But it has to cover the shoulder.
When you say
You
cover
can't
the
wear
shoulder,
like a spaghetti string.
I'm talking
There you
about
go.
a sleeveless.
Or a
Yes,
tank top.
she is correct.
You can wear a sleeveless top.
Yes, as long as
As
it
long
covers
as it
the
comes
shoulder.
to the edge of the shoulder, it doesn't have to come down here.
Right, that's the arm.
Okay, thank you. We're good.
We're gonna get into this
Okay.
fingertip length and 2 inches.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I think we're good. We have another person that would like to speak.
Jonna, if I might just share, I have been in touch with several elementary school parents, and this rule is new. I'm not sure if it's new to secondary, but I know it's new to elementary students, the tank tops and no flip-flops at some of our schools.
For little girls.
Yeah, so it was a concern for some parents who did their back-to-school shopping already that that their children have tank tops. And my question was, what is the penalty, I guess, for our younger students? And is this something that we're going to gradually
It's right here in the next
implement,
paragraph.
or are we
This
expecting?
This is for elementary also?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mr. Wade.
Okay.
And I just want to make one other comment. I heard that Duval County went to uniforms this year. Is that correct? Do you all know? Did you hear that?
I heard that there were some schools that they were trying. No, actually, I thought, was it Duval or St. John's?
Paul was talking about.
Okay, all right.
There was
okay.
money. There was money in the legislature if you did it.
Okay. Okay. So let's try to get back. Thank you for mentioning that. I think that's certainly.
I think
Yeah.
I have a lot more to say.
One conversation, please. One conversation, please. Okay. Did you have something to say, Ms. Condon?
I think we should finish the public.
Yeah, let's finish the public and then we'll have our discussion. Mr. Otto, come on forward. This is a public hearing for the Student Code of Conduct, so if you're going to speak on that, fine. If you're going to speak on something else, I've got you at the end during presentations from the audience.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Student Code of Conduct.
James Otto, 2910 Blanding Boulevard. Here, due to the BCC and the SOBs, I'd just like to thank the Jacksonville schools and the police department or whoever was behind getting it in the paper about the uniforms of the cheerleaders. They're too provocative for the schools to be, how are the kids supposed to learn when the girls are running around dressed that way? So I just wanted to say I appreciate Jacksonville for standing up and just remind you of what 20,000 women can do, and hope to see some more progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Otto. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring this back to the board. I will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen
I'll second.
and a second by Ms. Condon. Do we have any other discussion?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So, I have concerns that we had a public hearing to approve an advertised policy that I don't remember us ever voting to advertise. So, it seems like we skipped a step. And the reason that I bring it up is because I, as Ms. Gilhousen probably did, and all the other parents in this county, were asked to sign off on a draft dress code. We had to sign a piece of paper that came home, and it looked like this. And it's the parent-student acknowledgement of the Code of Student Conduct, virtual notification, and responsible use and guidelines. And you put the student's name, their teacher name, their grade, and the date. And it goes through, in pretty small font, a whole bunch of things that they're agreeing that they've received. And in bold, it says, failure to return this acknowledgement will not relieve a student or the parent or guardian from responsibility to know the contents of the Code of Student Conduct and responsible use policy, and will not excuse the student's noncompliance with this document. Contact your local principal or the district office academic services department if you have questions or concerns. Then it says, please check here if you would like to request a printed copy of the 2015-2016 Student Code of Conduct and Responsible Use. And then you sign it, and your student signs it and turns it back in. And I signed mine, and I checked the box that I would like to receive a printed copy, and I haven't yet, and we're now in the 9th day of school. And my concern is that, and I understand that there are some things in the Code of Conduct. Mr. Van Zant made mention of the fact that I've talked to him. He and I've talked more in the past 3 days than we've talked probably in the past 3 months, because I've called him with several questions and inquiries about this. And what concerns me is we asked our parents to sign off on a draft that we never talked about, that we never reviewed, and parents did do back to school shopping. I had parents call me and ask, were there changes in the dress code, were there changes coming in the dress code this year? And I'm not trying to incite anything, but I had parents call and ask about Confederate flags, and were there going to be changes to our dress code regarding that? And my answer back to them was, I wasn't aware of any changes to the dress code. And then this comes up, and there are significant changes to our Student Code of Conduct this year. And I have some that are small, nitpicky things, and then I have others that are larger. And so I'm happy to point out my concerns.
Please do.
Okay, so on...
Before you do that, can I ask one question? I'm looking at the past 2 months' agendas, and it's not on here anywhere. This has not been brought to us at all. To advertise? Was it brought to us for advertisement? What month was it brought for advertisement?
This was advertised.
I'm sorry, did you say July 16th?
Hold on one second, yeah.
July 16th, 2015 meeting. It's consent agenda item C28, and when you click over, it actually has the Code of Conduct on as an attachment.
Okay.
So then I got bad information, because when I inquired as to why we weren't seeing it until today, I was told because it wasn't ready. So, and I understand, maybe I voted yes. All I'm saying is here's my concerns. On the second or third page, the non-discrimination only addresses employees, and it seems out of place in a document that applies to students. It doesn't talk about that we won't discriminate regarding students. It seems like a form thing, so I don't know if that's, I don't know where it belongs, but it seems odd that it's in there, but it doesn't mention students. Not that I think we discriminate, but it seems odd. On page 6, page 7, and page 13, we all say the same, we say a similar sentence, and it says, as students progress in our public schools, it is reasonable to assume that an increase in age and maturity will result in the students assuming greater responsibility for their actions. And my concern is, are we holding students to a higher standard above employees and adults? And I've gotten a number of phone calls. These are not just my concerns, but these are concerns of parents in our communities, where they've pointed out a number of situations where they're aware of student discipline occurring, not necessarily school board type discipline, not discipline that gets to the school board level, not the expulsion level, but discipline at the school levels that is more severe than teachers who get in trouble for the same kinds of things. And I will try to give you an example of that, because I got a phone call from a parent that was not involved in this situation, but I've had several like it. But there has been in the past few years a group of students in our community who at some point went to some county park, city park, whatever, and smoked marijuana. And sheriff's deputy caught them, and they were issued citations for misdemeanors. And those would come with a fine and a court date. And one of those group of students happened to be 18. And so when they do the write-up, crime write-ups in the paper, their name was listed. And people at their school saw it and raised it to the level of their administration, and that student was immediately kicked off any sports team they were on, any extracurricular clubs. Basically, your privileges are gone because you got in trouble outside of school. And the concern the concern was, what are we teaching that child? We're teaching that child, you made one mistake that you're going to pay for because you got to go pay for the fine and you got to go to court and all that, and it wasn't in school, but what did that child learn? That child learned, I lose all my privileges, because they're not really a child anymore, they're 18, but we still consider them a child because they're in our schools. Meanwhile, during the past few years, not necessarily, in fact, not since I've been on the board, there was an employee of the school district arrested at some point, somewhere, same kind of thing, marijuana, misdemeanor, and that person's, and I understand that discipline goes with the certain set of circumstances. It's not always cut and dry, but that same employee got 5 days suspension, and I don't know if their name was in the paper or that kind of thing. And what parents have said to me is, and some of that is would be collectively bargained as far as discipline. Some of that is labor laws of the state of Florida, so we're probably bound by that. But I started thinking about, what would I want my child to learn if my child was in that unfortunate situation? And I do not in any way say that I'm condoning use of marijuana or anything that way. But what I'm saying is, would it not have been a more educational opportunity for us to have the student write a term paper on the effects of marijuana on a career, on what career field they want to look at, the health effects. I just can think of so many alternative ways that we don't bind ourselves into. And parents have said to me their concerns are that the code of conduct leads itself to stiffer discipline for our students than for our employees. The dress code is another place that I had concerns. On page 16, the first bullet says something about we will not wear clothing as to expose the body. But my face shows, my legs show if I wear shorts. I mean, I just think I think that's supposed to be the midriff, but then it talks about the midriff later in the sentence, so it feels like it's not clear. Then on page 17, there's a bullet that talks about sleepwear will not be worn at any time. And yet in our elementary schools, we have pajama days and we watch movies and drink hot chocolate, which I think is great. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, but I don't want us to write something into our policy and our dress code that you can be disciplined for if we're not going to follow it. It also says something about cheer shorts being inappropriate. I think all of our high schools have cheerleaders, and they wear cheer shorts to practice. So they're on school board property. I just have some concerns about, are we boxing ourselves in? And I understand that a lot of work went into this, and I'm not trying to be overly insulting, and I know it's coming out that way, but it's just concerning to me that we would approve a policy that we that immediately good students like the one who spoke to us tonight could be in violation of. It also talks about no muscle shirts. So based on what Ms. Segredo said with the girls and the sleeve that comes to here, they can show that part of their arm, but a boy can't. And I don't know that that's really the intent either. And then the only other thing that I would point out is that on page 15, we use a phone number without an area code. And I happen to live in a community that doesn't have the same area code as the rest of the county. And lots of people have cell phones. And it may seem like that's nitpicky, but in the 21st century, when people take their phone numbers with them wherever they've lived, we should give them the ability to make the right phone calls. And the reason all of that's important to me is because this is what happens on the first day of school. And I didn't just ask students at my children's school. I asked students at a lot of schools. And here's what happened. The first day of school, they went to their homeroom class, or their teacher took like 20 minutes and said, here's the school rules, and went over basic ones and said, if your parents want to see the whole code of conduct and the whole student handbook, tell them they need to go online. And then these little pieces of paper came home, and all of our parents signed them and sent them back. And I really, truly wonder how many of them really went online and read the whole thing and know what their kids can get in trouble for. Because the bigger issue than all that stuff that I cited is there is a large new section on cyberbullying and the use of online. And there is a paragraph that we signed on here about responsible use guidelines that talks about what students can get in trouble for online. And I think we as a school district have a responsibility to educate our kids on what can get them in trouble online. Excuse me, specifics on what, not just don't do anything you shouldn't do online, but what does cyberbullying really look like? If I call my friend fat on her Facebook page, is that cyberbullying? So that's the kind of thing that I think we have a responsibility to teach them. Also, they're signing off that they can be disciplined if they do that kind of thing. And I just don't feel like we did an adequate job of educating our parents and our students on what they have now signed off on. And I just felt like things were kind of backward. And to Mr. Sykes' point, I guess I missed it in July. We had 3 meetings in July about the budget, and I mean, I guess, you know, shame on me for not reading the consent agenda more carefully, but I really am concerned.
So are you thinking that you would prefer a hard copy be sent home to every student like it used to be? Is that where you're going with
No, I think that, no, I've
actually... we can't control if people read it or not.
No, certainly we can't, but I think what would be maybe more effective and less paper and money and time would be for somehow, you know, we have that great IT department that has done these awesome videos and stuff. What if we had a training built around the code of conduct that speaks to them, speaks their language? I don't know.
Did they cover this at orientation and open house at all? I think I can remember when my kids were in school, some of this was covered, but I don't know if they still do.
I know at my children's school it was covered.
Mr. Wingate, I've seen him pop up twice. Do you have anything you'd like to kind of force project here? You've been dealing with this document for several years now.
Yeah, just a couple comments, if I may. The dress code, actually, we had a situation at a school last year, you may remember, and that sparked a lot of discussion about the dress code. So our department went back and solicited information from a variety of sources, and that information came back. And so you were presented that dress code last year, and we voted on it and signed off on it. So that is what you see in that document is the same dress code and the consequences for the offenses. We went back and re-examined that, looked at the law about not writing referral for the first offense. So again, you have seen those documents sometime, I'm guessing about February, March roughly, when all that was going on. And so again, that's the same information that we had last year brought to the board.
Excuse me, Mr. Wingate, what I'm looking at, there is a whole large paragraph that is crossed through, and then...
That's the old language.
That's the old language.
Correct. If I know we're on dress code, let me just jump to a couple things, if I may, since you brought those up. We've talked to elementary schools. Several have called our offices, and we've said, we know this is elementary school. The principal has the determination, and their staff has the determination to say if this is inappropriate or not. So we give the elementary schools in particular a lot of leeway. You can imagine the majority of your dress code violations and issues come in the secondary world. So again, the principals at elementary school, they know to be reasonable and to look at what's a child, the age, what's appropriate, etc. So again, can some of the language be altered or cleaned up a little bit? Nobody is saying that we can't do better. But I just wanted to comment that. Also, Ms. Condon, you mentioned about the information about discrimination. One of the things I deal with is the equity folks, and they require that information in all your documents. Yes, we agree this is a student and parent information, but if you look at the whole document, it talks about the folks that they should call if their child has been discriminated against, and it has particular language in there. So I can tell you we catch, I shouldn't say it that way, we get advised by the equity people in our annual equity report. We have to prove and show documentation that we have that in almost everything that we send out. So we put that in there. It's kind of a catch-all. Most parents are going to look at that and go, wow, I'm not sure how this applies to me and everything, but it does address and it covers us in terms of the equity people and what they're looking for. Okay?
The section on bullying, the cyberbullying, I remember when that came to us, isn't that language very similar to what was a statute thing at the time?
Yes.
I do believe so, yeah. Yep.
Now, comment on that. I know Ms. Ellis and I, we've had some conversations on how we can go about, and you bring up a great point, how we can go about educating kids, because we know this is wreaking havoc out there in our world with social media. So that is certainly something that we need to explore. Everybody agrees with that.
I like Ms. Condon's idea of putting something on our website, you know, something about the dress code, what's acceptable, what's not, maybe put something up there and
Well, I was
about the
thinking
bullying
a
and
training for the kids.
We used to
Right.
have assembly days where everybody would meet in the assembly hall, and you know they could do an educational video and have everybody come into the assembly hall and talk about dress code. I see
The schools
I see
do.
Mr. Hendrick over there going.
Somebody mentioned orientation. The schools do orientations, especially in the secondary world.
Right.
And of course, they're notorious for having fashion shows, do's and don'ts, and that sort of thing. The problem is you're not going to get 100% attendance by folks for a variety of reasons and everything. So the schools put out information. All, especially the secondary schools, and if Ms. Chastain has a comment about the elementary school, I would ask her to say some. But all the secondary schools, that first week or so of school, I can tell you there's a huge amount of leniency and education, talking to them on the intercom, giving them chances that first couple days especially, so that kids know what is appropriate and everything. As you know, we could go round and around about what's appropriate. Fashion trends change from about every 4 or 5 years. You get a different. We're constantly fighting this thing. It's a tough one, I can tell you that.
I was sitting at a light, and I won't say which high school I was near, and a young girl was walking, and she had on the shortest skirt I think I've ever seen, and fishnet stockings, and she was coming out of one of our high schools, and I looked and thought, whoa. I know it was the second day of school, but I sure hope somebody was at least addressing that.
Well, and I think that that's a problem too, because different people feel differently about things, and what might fly at one school will not be allowed at another. And even though they've got the same code of conduct, it's just the way different people see it. But I was looking back. Mr. Sykes is right. It was on the 16th, I believe. We approved to advertise as submitted.
Right.
But tonight is to approve as advertised.
Correct.
So this is the real approval.
Okay, so do we have any?
I think that I mean my issue wasn't as much with the conduct or with the content, was that I felt like we asked parents to sign off on a draft, and I don't feel like that's appropriate. And then some of these other things that I mentioned, and I think that we can do a better job of, and that's what I wanted to say.
Maybe this should come to us sooner next year, so that this is already approved before the first day of school.
And then I think that something else that would be a valid use of our new app, Mr. Van Zant, maybe is if we could do a push notification maybe next week or something to remind parents to go and look at it, because I don't know how many parents do this, but when the kids come home that first day and they've got that stack in their hand, you're signing.
Oh yeah.
You're just signing, and you aren't really sure what you exactly signed. Now I know we should all read what we signed, but we know how that works when you've gotten home from work. You're trying to get dinner. You're probably signing it may have spaghetti sauce on it because you were signing as you were cooking. So
I would also suggest that next year, when it's back to school shopping time, that maybe we send a push notification listing the specific things that are banned in our dress code. Just simple, don't buy these things.
I think that's a good idea. Mr. Wingate, you were going to add something.
I'm sorry, I'm going to sit down. The schools do. A lot of them, I can't swear upon it 100%. A lot of them put this on the website. And again, we're trying to get that information out there. But to your comment about getting it to you sooner, I know one of the things that we deal with the progression plan, with code of conduct, with things like agreements with our dual enrollment school, our state colleges, is in this particular area we have to wait till legislation gets pounded out. There's interpretations of what the changes have been, and so it sometimes gets into a little of a crunch time there as we get into July before they have finalized and everything. Of course, starting school in mid-August, sometimes it does put us in a crunch. We try to do that as much as we can.
I think they're starting earlier next year, so maybe that'll help.
Hopefully so.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? So, I forgot who made the motion.
I think I did.
Okay, so we had a motion by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Condon. Any last comments?
I'm torn on this because, you know, we need to have a code of conduct approved, but I really don't like some of the words in this thing. I don't know, but I guess it's done for this year. We try to clean it up for next year.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, before we move into presentations for the audience, I'd like to take a quick 10-minute break, please. Right now it's about 12 minutes to 9. If we could just go ahead and all come back at 9 o'clock and we will get the meeting started again.
Walk around anyway. Get some circulation in our feet. I wonder how many.
You'd have to ask him. I really don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Which one? Oh, no, this was a backpack and everything. Really? With a backpack? It probably was. Oh, look, the skirt was this big, and the stockings. And I looked at it. Holy shit! My husband was with me. He's like, with the little girl. She was walking over by where that Ryan Steakhouse used to be, and I was like, could have been a mother. It surprised me. I remember when my kids were here,
some of these moms came dressed like they're teenagers. And I'd look at them and think, you know, come on, you're 50 years old. Oh my God. What are they thinking? Gosh.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 9 o'clock. We are going to go ahead and get started. So if you would all return to your seats, please. Okay. The next item that we have on the agenda is presentations from the audience. We have 19 cards here, so I am going to strictly keep everybody to 3 minutes. When the buzzer goes off, your time is up, and so please make your comments brief. The first person that we have is David Fields. He wants to be speaking on the issue of bargaining with CCEA contract. Also, just remember, folks, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Hi, my name is David Fields. I live at 1320 South Lawrence Boulevard, Keystone Heights, Florida. And I'm here to speak on behalf of my fellow teachers in Clay County. I'm the reigning Clay County Teacher of the Year, and I'm coming to speak on behalf of the awesome teachers here in Clay County. About a year ago, my wife and I made the decision that we were going to move from Keystone Heights, either up this way to Clay County or down to Alachua County. And this May, or actually technically it was July, we came to the decision that we were going to move to Alachua. And that was because of a couple things that were not in the Clay County contract for teachers. One of them being there's no protection for annual contract teachers in the language. And so I didn't feel comfortable having my wife come to Clay County. That was part of it. Also, the salary when I started 8 years ago, Clay was definitely better than Alachua, but because of several years of not getting our step or any sort of raise, we've kind of gotten back to where Alachua is. So there was no salary reason for us to move up here or for us to stay. And also, we're looking at starting a family soon. And family insurance rates are going to be a lot better for us in Alachua with both of us working for the district in Alachua. So it was definitely a hard decision and one that we prayed and thought about a lot. And we ended up going to Alachua because we thought it was a better environment for us as teachers. And I know that a lot of this board, there's been a lot of campaigning about bringing family values to Clay County. And I honestly think that if you want to bring family values to Clay County, that you need to take care of your teachers, because the teacher work environment is your children, your students' learning environment, and family values is making sure you take care of teachers. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Ms. Renalee Paiva, and she would like to speak on the matter of mill rates.
Still going around and around in my head about that one. Renalee Paiva, President of the CCEA, speaking on behalf of the CCEA. Last time I was in front of you all, I asked you what can you do about revenue, because that is the number one concern with a district that's below 3%. Clay has had supplemental levies of $0.25 from 1995 to 2009. So these are discretionary supplements, and from 2009 to 2013, the school board levied another, or got, however that works, another $0.25 for critical operating needs levy. Our question is, why haven't we done that? Right now we have no discretionary supplemental levies the school board hasn't done to raise revenue on revenue that is badly needed, we're told. Marion County just did a $0.25 levy, or has one in place right now, to bring back resource teachers to all their elementary schools, art, music, and PE in every school. So they levied a $0.25. We do not understand why our school board has decreased our millage and done nothing to increase revenue to the school district. that it claims to be financially unsound. We would like our school board to discuss this option before voting to accept the 2015-16 district budget. Discretionary levies has been done in Clay County. I went back and did the research. So I did take a look at what you can do and didn't even go into the tax or sales tax and all that other stuff that you have to put on the ballot. But we certainly think that if we are serious about raising revenue, besides the employees not just doing it, raising the revenue, that our school board should be doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Van Sant, you might know the answer to this. If we were to implement a quarter mill, doesn't that have to go on the ballot? Doesn't that have to be voter approved?
I'm not sure which quarter mill that she's referring to. The quarter mill we did, you were authorized by the legislature for 2 years to do a supermajority of the board vote. The board voted to do that. It went before the Clay County voters in 2010. They affirmed to keep it for 2 more years, and then that authority was gone from you. You only had it as a board for 2 years. The voters had it the other 2 years. Okay. So I can't speak to what Marion County did, but I will take a look at it and let you know what it is that they did.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I do not believe that we can levy a tax without it going before the voters.
No, ma'am. Well, let me just clarify. The mill levy that you adopt is set by the Florida legislature based on the Department
But I mean
of
the
Revenue.
additional that was referred to by Ms. Paiva.
I'm not aware of that, but I will research that for you.
I think we're raising, I think we levy the maximum that we legally can levy. We don't have any discretionary ability. We don't have an ability to do that. I don't know.
And in 2008, and then again in 2010, when it was extended, that also came with matching funds from the state, which was like $4.2 million total, something like that.
Mr. Van Sant, when you look into that millage with Ms. Legutko, could you also find out, because my understanding was that the state would lower their portion if we increase the required local effort. So basically the state has a built-in offset, and so if you can clarify that with her.
Right, I can clarify that part of that now. You don't have the discretion to raise it, and if what you're saying is true in the opposite, if you don't levy as much as they tell you to levy, then there's a proportion of the FEFP that you lose. If you don't levy what they tell you to levy, you can't fully participate in the Florida Education Finance Program.
Right, but my understanding is, like, for instance, how St. John's property tax base is higher than ours, that the amount the state contributes is lower, that they don't allow you to go above a certain...
Yes, if we were fortunate enough to have the property value of St. John's, that would get equalized down and spread around. We would not get to keep all that, and Dr. Joyner doesn't get to keep all of his.
Okay. All right. The next person is Rayanne O'Sullivan. I hope I said that right. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Rayanne O'Sullivan, 2879 Birchwood Drive, Orange Park. I'm the parent of an ESE student at Middleburg High School in the IND Level P classroom. And I just wanted to address that she's been a student there for the last 3 years, and with the bus schedules, they allowed our students in those 2 classrooms, I believe there's 13 this year, to come at 8:30 in the morning as opposed to the 7, I believe 23 that high schools do start. This year they've changed that, and they did give us the parents a call this summer about that they would be required to come also at the required time for high school students in Clay County. We were all thrown back by that because it wasn't discussed with us, I guess, or anything like that. My concern with that is my student, I'll talk from my experience, is with her special needs, has the extra time that she needs to get ready in the morning that we have to get her ready, because we're her caregivers and we do everything for her. We have to get her dressed and fed, that kind of thing. It just takes much more time. And the original pickup schedule for her 2 weeks ago was 6:32 in the morning, and then the next week it got changed to 6:15 that she would be picked up. And I'm fine with her going at 7:20. There's 7:23, but they're requiring our children to be dropped off at the school at 10 till 7. And I was told by her teacher that was because they wanted them to get there and be off the bus and out of the way before the other buses came in. And I just don't feel like that's right, that they have to be there 30 minutes ahead of the other students. And so I had made the decision this week to just try it, and I'm taking her on my own, and I get her there by 7:23, and the bus brings her home. But I just like to have that consideration that maybe our students could be there at the regular time as the other students and not another extra half hour early. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just say I know that that concern has been heard, and there are discussions that are taking place to address that issue for you. So, okay. Thanks. Our next speaker is Jean Sermons.
Sermons, 3200.
Can you pull the microphone down, ma'am? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Jean Sermons, 3200 Litchfield Drive. Clay County School District has a widespread reputation of excellence. I can tell you, as the wife of a retired Navy chief, when my husband was transferred to Mayport from Virginia Beach, fellow Navy personnel said Clay County is where you want to be. Having worked for the county for almost 9 years, many parents have verbalized they also moved to the county because a nurse was staffed at every school, and parents find that valuable. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lack of awareness of the roles we play, our responsibility, and our value to the schools, as evident by a pay scale that starts a registered nurse at $14.55 an hour. Our value is degraded when we are told, you don't work in a hospital. We have never asked for hospital pay, only a fair wage, since we currently sit at $7,000 below state average school nurse pay. We are both nurses. We just have varying roles and responsibilities. Not to invent or apply the value of one over the other, but I believe a high school chemistry teacher is on the same scale as a kindergarten teacher. Why? Because you value both of their educations and skills. You do not compare them or pay one significantly less than the other. Our value is insulted when we are told pay reflects the perks of the job, summers off, weekends, and holidays. Why is that logic not applied to the teachers? Are they the only staff that want to make a difference in a child's life? Pay should be based on the level of education, skills, and responsibilities, not based on perceived perks. That does not justify substandard pay. I wouldn't call 8 weeks without pay a perk. What does it mean to be a registered nurse? I'm at Oakleaf Village Elementary. Usually we average about 950 students. I have an LPN under my delegation. 357 students are flagged in focus with a health condition from minor to severe or chronic. We average about 50 to 60 kids that come through our doors each day with various needs. I have a large staff who also some have medical conditions that count on us to help them as well. I attend IEPs, 504s, write care plans, emergency plans, and provide student-specific training to teachers and staff who are responsible for these medically challenged kids. We provide medication administration teachers to the teachers, which allows them to carry the medication bag on a field trip and give it if needed. This is done under my license. So I don't know if any other jobs in this county put their personal state license on the line as we do.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Keith Nichols.
Mr. Van Zandt, I'd like to thank you because you made a comment earlier that you had sat on the board when finances were not a problem. that you voted for pay raises for the hardworking employees for Clay County, and that's well and fine, sir. But I would also like to remind you of something that I brought up in the very first presentation that I did to this board. And I want to remind you that at that time you were an elected member of our community, and that point that I brought up back then was that in 2008 to 2012, administrative salaries raised by 12%, even though we were facing economic downturn and declining enrollment during that time. You're looking out here at these red shirts, and the one thing that I want you to remember is that the problems that the district are facing, they didn't cause them. They are subject to them, but they did not cause them, and you don't need to be putting the burden of bringing us back financially squarely on their backs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Linda Turner. Okay. Jeanette Corona.
Good evening. My name's Jeanette Corona, 1460 Greenway Place. I'm in my 5th year with Clay County as a teacher assistant. I have a degree in early childhood education and a bachelor's in supervision and management. I have my 45 DCF hours, hold a director's credential, and I am CPR and first aid certified. Each day I interact with about 120 students, providing additional instruction. I motivate and enhance learning skills either in a classroom, with the teacher, or on a one-on-one basis, or in a small group setting. The teachers requested a review of their job description several years ago, citing the changes in increased duties, increased educational requirements, and increased certifications, only to be told there was no money to change our pay band to the level it should be. Still, we have continued to do our jobs with the increased responsibilities, and now we are here facing another year with no increase in our salaries, not even a dime added to our salary schedule. I am a single mom of 4. I earn $10.99 an hour with $1 an hour with my degree incentive. I make $11.99 an hour. I have not had a change in pay since I have been with the county. But each year, my health benefits have increased, making my take-home pay much less. My son, in his college, working at a local grocery store, made more money than I did. It is time to make your support employees, those who are working on the front lines, a priority, and ensure they stick around. Otherwise, you may find a much different district in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Stacy.
Good evening. My name is Kim Stacy. I live at 2248 Stauffer Road, Green Cove Springs. Good evening. Where should I start? I wish I could start out with a thank you to the board members and Mr. Van Zandt for a pay raise, or thank you for coming out to one of the compounds and riding our school bus for an afternoon, or just sticking your head in the door of our bus. That probably is all that needs convincing you that we need to entertain looking into AC units for our buses. Or maybe the suffering on a child's beet red face, their clothes wringing wet with sweat as they exit the bus in the afternoons. Or feel compassion for the driver that's on the bus 3 to 4 hours per shift, some longer without restroom breaks because the routes are so long, or been cut and they're doubling the number of students on the routes. Some drivers are doubling back to the same school twice because we don't have enough drivers to cover the routes, because of the low pay and the working conditions we have to deal with on a daily basis. In this folder, you will find pictures that I will hand to you after this of the degrees of the pictures that I have took on the bus. 105, 106, 112, 116, 127, 128. I will leave this folder with you so the pictures yourself can convince you of my invitation to you that I have given to you several times of coming out and riding on a bus in the afternoon in the sweltering heat. I feel like I am committing a crime, making these children ride on such a hot box. The next time your car sits in the hot sun while you're at work or just running errands, just imagine how hot the school bus is at that time. A school bus is 10 times hotter with the windows down than your car is at that moment. Our insurance has raised $60 more pay period, which means right now instead of being paid twice a month, I'm really only being paid once a month. With what you're thinking to yourself, oh, we pay twice a month. Well, that is the case, but when the insurance comes in, the taxes, the low pay, no raise, no nothing, I'm actually losing a pay period. Looks like my family and I will be eating a lot of beans and potatoes for a long time. At least there are several ways to cook the potatoes. In that said, I ask you again to please listen to us, because you might find yourself without us one day, because we cannot survive like this. We are going to have to move on, and then what are y'all going to do?
Thank you, Ms. Stacy. Okay, the next speaker is Teresa Dixon, and then the person after that is Amy Smith. If you want to go ahead and stand on deck, and we'll try to move this. Teresa, you're going to pass? Okay. Amy Smith. And then the person after that is Elizabeth Brandon. If you want to go ahead and stand in the back.
My name is Amy Smith. I live at 687 Barney Road in Green Cove Springs. I have lived in Clay County for 29 years. I have worked for the school board for 3 years. With that being said, I love my kids, I love my schools, and I love my coworkers. What I don't love is the direction that this county is going in. Support staff understand the situation the county is in, and we understand how hard it is to continue achieving the high standards Clay County has reached, and we want that to continue. However, Clay County schools did not reach that high standard without the dedication that support staff put into their jobs. We have custodians who spend their own money on cleaning supplies and bus drivers who get on their buses and drive for 5 hours nonstop. They will pee in a bucket or a cup because they don't have time to stop in between routes to even go to the bathroom. That's called dedication and advisory. But these employees cannot continue to do their jobs efficiently when they are having to give their salary back to the county for insurance because their income is below poverty level. I know of several support employees who get their pay stubs and find they did not even earn enough to cover the cost of their medical insurance. I, myself, have 2 kids that I have to take my entire paycheck to support. One of them has disabilities, and that attends Clay County schools. That takes all of my paycheck. And this cannot continue. Employees cannot do their job if they have to worry about whether they will have lights when they get home. Clay County support staff should not have to live below poverty level when other Clay County employees have received cost of living increases and we have not. Support employees cannot keep holding up the schools, and especially the students, when you keep kicking our feet out from underneath us. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Brandon, and then the next person is Amanda Vanden Abilene. I'm sorry. Is she here? Okay, you can go ahead and take a spot behind. Go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Brandon. The address is 6111 Island Forest Drive. I'm here to address y'all regarding the change in time for the Middleburg ESD students. Yes. I'm a parent of one. And I was just disheartened that decisions were made regarding my son without my input, without my thoughts. How is this going to impact your child? How is this going to impact your family? These children or young adults have a lot of needs. They're medically disabled, they're physically disabled. There's medication schedules to keep. There's feeding schedules to keep. That hour and a half difference makes a big difference. We're involved in IEPs every year. We're involved with the teachers in the care of our children. And I just wish the budgeting committee would consider us before making a change like that in the future.
Okay. Thank you. The
Madam
next
Chairman,
person.
may I ask a question?
Yes.
Was this done to reduce the number of routes? To try to...
I will say this. I will say that that concern has been brought up, and it is right now being discussed, and they are going to address it, right? So I don't want anybody to think that it's not being addressed. It is. Okay.
That's
Yep.
all I wanted to know.
Yep.
Are they looking at changing the start time back for these students? Is that part of it?
Ms. Cornegay, would you like to speak to that, Mr. Van Zandt? Yep.
We are looking at a couple different options, but we are aware of it and we are looking to correct it. So we've got a couple of different things that we're considering, and we certainly want to talk to the families to get their input before making any final decision on that. So we intend to do that here very shortly.
Would you please keep the school board in the loop on that? I know we've all gotten several emails
Yeah.
from these parents, and when they call us, we'd like to know what the conversation is that's going on in the district.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I lost my...
Amanda.
It's okay. My name is Amanda Van
Okay, Amanda, yes. Okay.
My name is Amanda Van Dennebeel. I live at 2367 Stony Glen Drive here in Orange Park. I'm here to speak. I apologize for my nervousness. I'm here to speak on behalf of the awesome support staff in Clay County, specifically our clerical staff. You don't hear much from us, but we are out there and we are important. I am the record secretary at Thunderbolt Elementary School. I'm currently in my 10th year in Clay County as the record secretary here, a job that I love and that I'm also very good at. Previous to Clay County, I was a registrar in Broward County down in South Florida for 6 years. My current hourly wage here in Clay County is $14.12. That's after 10 years and also coming in with an additional 4 years experience, the max that they would allow. My position, as other clerical positions are, is an auditable position. I am responsible for all student data, including but not limited to the master schedule. As you may know, this directly affects FTE counts, which in turn is the funding for our school and hence Clay County. Again, $14 an hour after 10 years experience in this job. I would also like you to know that when I came to Clay County 10 years ago, I took a $9,000 pay cut for the same position. I thought I would have time to make up that or maybe get close to it, but that has not happened. It doesn't look like it's going to happen ever. It is very frustrating that our support staff, year after year, salary just stays status quo and nobody seems to care. What I really want the board to know is that every secretary that I work with, every classroom assistant, custodial worker, cafeteria worker that I directly work with in my school are hardworking, dedicated, and knowledgeable people. With our current pay scale at or below the poverty level, Clay County will not be able to keep this capable staff. When, not if, this happens, you will lose the dedicated, skilled support staff that you now have, and instead you will earn the employees this pay scale warrants. How will that affect our schools and our children? Please consider this when showing your appreciation and respect for our support staff. Thank you and good evening.
Okay, thank you. We next have Rebecca Smith, and then behind Rebecca Smith we have Karen O'Keefe.
My name is Rebecca Smith. I live at 25 Bitterroot Avenue in Middleburg, Florida. I am also a support staff. I am a Clay County school bus driver. I'm very proud to be one. I enjoy my job. I enjoy the students. I love them. However, I'm placed in a situation right now that I make only 6.11 hours a day. Then I have my pre-trip, so it gives me 6.5 hours a day. My insurance, just the medical insurance alone, not dental, vision, and none of that, is going to cost me $844 a month. Now, I'm at a level 4 pay scale, 11.72 or 73 cents. And do the math. I'm going to write you a check for me to work for y'all. That's messed up. That's wrong. That is so wrong. I have stood here, I've sit over here, and I've listened to all these other support people get up and tell you how bad it is. I don't know if y'all are really grasping what we're telling you. This insurance is killing us. We need to have a bid war, about 3 or 4 insurance companies bidding to get our business. And they need to be reasonable about this. Having deductibles enough that I could go and buy a used car, or even the money that I'm paying for my insurance, $844 a month, I could buy a house. Think about that. I could buy a house. I drive from Middleburg to Green Cove every day to work. Now, I'm going to write you a check for me to work, and I'm going to have to pay for my gas out of my own pocket. You know, honestly, I'm starting to feel like I got stupid written across my forehead. You know, this has got to stop. The madness needs to stop. I know you say we ain't got money, we ain't got money, we ain't got money, we ain't got money. We have heard that how many years? We ain't got money, but yet new jobs are getting allocated, people are getting raises, and we're still down the hole. Now, I am very passionate about this, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to y'all, but I feel disrespected. Everyone out here is feeling disrespected right now. Look at these, look at the faces. These are the people that work for y'all. You got to do better. I'm just saying, you need to do better. I mean, shame on y'all. I mean, you need to do better.
Miss O'Keefe. Karen O'Keefe. And then behind Miss O'Keefe is James Otto.
I'm Karen O'Keefe, and I live at 4575 Castlewood Court. And I'm here about 3 different issues. One is our pay raise, one is our heated on this bus, and the other one is really not to speak on anymore. But our drivers that are contracted, that do not get 6 hours a day, have to now, cannot be on standby, have to go in and clean buses in 102 degrees at 10:30, at 9:40 in the morning to get their 6 hours. If they do not do this, they now have to sign a leave form and do not get paid, and that goes against their perfect attendance. In the afternoon, they have to go into a 120 degrees bus that has been sitting all day with the windows up, and if you're washing windows, guess what? Those windows don't go down so you can get air in there. You have drivers that are getting sick every day from this. Every day. And you guys want to sit here and cut us more and more. Why? We just get to stand there and take it every day. You have drivers out there that don't get a potty break at all. They have to just keep on going to each school and pick up kids. Where would you like them to go to the bathroom at? Their bucket on their bus? They start smelling after a while. Kids are going to be sick. Then you have our pay raise. I've been here for 10 years. I've lived my whole life in Clay County. Went to Clay High School. I have never, ever, 10 years I enjoy my kids every year. I'm fixing to change counties to get me a better pay. So me and my children that attend your school can live better. I live on my parents' property in a tiny little mobile home. That's where I live. My car's breaking down. My parents are having to help me pay for my car repairs. I have to pay them back out of my paychecks. That leaves me even more broke. Insurance. I can't afford to put my son on insurance. Not at all. So you think about where you're going to go. Because if we walk out, where did the teachers stand at?
Thank you. Mr. James Otto, and then after James Otto is Dana West.
James Otto, 2910 Highway 21. In support of Spring Park, the lakes, and the libraries. Say no to taxes of $1.7 million for a fairgrounds in Clay County. Say no to a 1-cent gas tax. I'm here over the Board of County Commissioners with their SOBs. I requested at the last school board meeting for a total spent on football. No contact from the school board members yelling at me today. That was to happen, and 2 BCC meetings came and passed since then. ClayCountyGov.com for videos of past meetings. I suggest that these folks go back and look at their county commissioners' meetings and what they've done to their properties in Clay County just recently. I gave the school board and the Board of County Commissioners the book League of Denial on some of the NFL issues. Sell off the football fields. Support the teachers, not the football. Every child should be able to learn how to swim, and none should be put in football. Look where the bullying comes from. More abuse equals more money for the NFL, and more money or more issues for the Quigley House. More money, more abuse equals more money for the NFL this year. That's what they said. They made more money this year. That's sad to me. Women are being beat up and they're making more money. Completely insane. A doctor for every school, with or without sports, is what I would think. Look at what these kids are going through these days. Look at what they're on. You think a nurse can tell what's going on? I think a doctor would be better off in these schools. When I moved to Clay County, these schools were A's. I hear a lot of praising going on. I don't see it. The BCC needs to go to full impact fees, not partial impact fees. I hear people are moving out of Clay County, and one of my only attorneys is in Clay County, and he's moving out of Clay County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Otto. Dana West, and then after Dana West is Pamela Collins.
Good evening, Mr. Van Sant and ladies of the board. My name is Dana West. I live at 1533 Shelter Cove Drive, Fleming Island, Florida. I am the ESE nurse at Fleming Island Elementary School. I spoke with you in December related to the poor pay for Clay County school nurses and the lack of fair compensation that this board has given us. At that time, you all stated that you would have a workshop, that you would come together and have a committee meeting and discuss what we presented to you. We presented to you many facts and figures. All of them were true. All of them were honest. We have an increasingly complex group of students in Clay County. If I could give you my own personal statistics, I have 4 diabetics at my school. I have children with cerebral palsy, spina bifida, multiple muscular dystrophy, brain tumors, idiopathic seizures, febrile seizures. We work in conjunction with the health department that is increasingly decreased We only have 3 health department nurses now in all of Clay County to see the schools. They can't get to us. They only get to my school about 3 times last year, mostly to say hi. I'm the one that's responsible for making certain that all the care plans are written, all the IEP meetings are attended, all the ESE assistants are trained, all the teachers have medical training for giving EpiPens if a child has an allergic reaction in their classroom and it's a half mile from my nursing office. That's on my license. It was interesting to me that Mr. Van Sant said that he started out in the early 90s with making $25,000 a year. I'm sure you had your bachelor's degree at that time. I've had a Bachelor of Science in Nursing since 1989. I have had an active nursing license since that time. I've been a pediatric nurse. I've worked in pediatric intensive care for 5.5 years. I've worked in various school systems throughout this country and for our government overseas in the DODS program. And now in Clay County, you are paying me $25,000 a year with all that experience. And I think that says enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Collins, and then next we have Leah Norton.
Good evening. My name is Pam Collins, 287 Dow Court in Green Cove Springs. I graduated from nursing school in 1983. I have 31 years nursing experience as a registered nurse. I have 17 years of those experience. I've been working in Clay County schools, 15 years at Fleming Island Elementary, and now currently I'm on my 2nd year at Tynes Elementary. Tynes Elementary has a population of 869 students. I'm the only nurse there taking care of those students. Of that 869 students, 88 parents report that their students have health conditions such as diabetes, asthma, food allergies, seizures, and cardiac conditions. That's 10% of my student population. With known illnesses, known potentially life-threatening illnesses. And honestly, to me, those are the good ones because I know about them. I have some knowledge and I have hopefully a medication and I have a care plan in place. But there's the other 90% population that walk into my clinic that I honestly have no clue what I'm getting. I had a 4-year-old student to my clinic last year come in with just coughing, called the mom to come pick him up, and he ended up in a full-blown asthmatic attack and had to have him rescued to the nearest hospital to my school. I mean, we have life-threatening illnesses that come into our school. We have students that couldn't attend school if we didn't have nurses in our school, in our county. The first 9 days of school this year, the first 9 days of school in my clinic, I have seen 294 students in 9 days. 153 parent contacts. Those include calls, visits, and calls, visits, and phone calls to parents coming, phone calls, and sending letters home. I have done so far 25 emergency medical plans that are required by the State Health Department and the Department of Education. And that's only 25. I'm going to have another several more that I still have to do, and I have more that will be coming in because of the illnesses that I have of my 88 parents up there. I've worked most days this year till 4:30 and 5 o'clock just to stay caught up because it can't get done while I'm seeing my 294 students in the day. I work 6.5 hours on my own time at my school on Sunday because I have to stay on top of who I have coming into my school. I have to know who I have there. We take pride in the fact that we are just one of the few counties in the state of Florida to have nurses. I'm proud of that. I love my job. I've been doing this for a long time. But I think it's time to truly support the effort by compensating nurses for the professionals that we are. With 31 years of nursing experience, 17 years in the county, I currently make almost $25 an hour. As a first-year teacher with that same experience, last year I worked a short time in an instructional position in this county. With my same experience, I was paid $30.61 an hour. If I were an occupational therapist or a physical therapist in this county with my same current years of service, I would be making $41 an hour. That's a big discrepancy in the professionals, in the pay that we pay the professionals that work in our county. I can't say what fair pay would be. I don't know. You can't honestly say that. It's hard enough to put what's fair on the educational value of a student, let alone the value of a child that we have a medical emergency on, a life-threatening illness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leah Norton, and then our final speaker is Commander Pat Thurman.
Hello, Leah Norton, 1630 Woodpecker Lane, Middleburg, Florida, 32068. I was really impressed by the news clips that I saw. I feel proud to work for a county in which They are saying that it is the best shape that it's ever been in since, well, I guess just the best, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, the best shape it's ever been in. But the thing that concerns me is even though the county is supposedly in the best shape it's ever been in, your employees are in the worst shape they have ever been in. So, speaking on behalf of the teachers, we are 3 steps behind in pay, as you know, and we have incurred all of the additional costs for insurance. Our costs have nearly doubled, and we are paying for all of it. Now, I know at collective bargaining there was a $500 raise on the table, but the stipulation was that we would not get paid the extra time for the PLCs, professional learning communities, which would add up to about $450. Now, that's about a $50 raise, if you do the math. And, you know, Ms. Cornegie said that we have 700 new students, which is about $4.9 million in revenue. It's enough to give teachers a $1,000 raise. And giving you a little bit of background information for myself, last year I went to the doctor, and my doctor wanted me to have an MRI, and I didn't feel I couldn't afford it with all of my other expenses because I'm living on my own. So I decided to go ahead and drop my 403B down to $0. So I'm no longer putting any money into my 403B retirement. And then I got nervous thinking about my future, about what if I have a bad situation occur, I can't afford to take care of myself if something were to happen. So I am 36 years old, and I just decided to move back in with my mother. My mother, who put me through the Clay County school system, sent me to college, and now I'm living back at her house because I don't feel like I could adequately take care of myself. And that's the only way that I can put money away for my future. Okay, so I work hard every single day for this county and for my students, and I love my students, and I love their families, and I want the best for them, and I want the best for all of humanity. And I want to be able to take care of myself. And people say all the time, teachers are not in it for the money. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're in it because we love what we do, but we are in it for the money to take care of ourselves. We're not asking to make a lot of money, but I want to be able to provide for myself. And when my family, my parents are getting older, I want to be able to help them. They helped me. I can't even help them. I can't even help myself. So I would like for you guys to think about those things. When you say there's no money, we just want the truth. Actions speak louder than words. You say that you appreciate us. However, we're not seeing that. So please have the integrity to show us that you appreciate us. Thank you.
Thank you. Commander Thurman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Commander Patrick Thurman, 2552 Willow Creek Drive, Fleming Island, Florida. Home phone 904-213-7838. I've been the Senior Naval Science Instructor at the Middleburg NJROTC unit for over 12 years. I'm here tonight to talk about priorities. We are the only major team coaches in Clay County not paid a coaching supplement. Each year I've asked the NJROTC instructors to be listed on the coaching supplement list, and the 2 most popular responses I am given are 1, we have no money, and 2, we're not interested in that at this time. These basically excuses translate to, we're not interested in paying you for your successes. This is in part my fault because most of our instructors are given freely of their time and expertise for years. And make no mistake, it is our time and our expertise that is directly responsible for these success stories. In just the last 5 years, Middleburg NJROTC unit has finished top 3 at the State Academic Drill and Athletic Championship, including winning it all twice, with our academic team finishing in 5th place in the nation. That's Middleburg, in the nation. And 2nd place in the nation's unarmed exhibition drill team. Not including the 13,000 community service hours provided and the $3 million in student scholarships earned. If you had one set of coaching supplements to give out based solely on merit, the NJROTC instructors should be at the head of the line. No other team or club can match our successes. I'm aware of the budget shortfalls, of course. I worked with large budgets at the Pentagon and as a lead pilot for the Chief of Naval Operations on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Our total supplement spread out over 10 instructors is basically chump change and could be easily cut out of any number of budget lines. It all depends on your priorities. All it would take is a leader to stand up and make it a priority. Without a coaching supplement, virtually every competition victory, every community service hour, every scholarship dollar is on the backs of the NJRTC instructors. No one should be made to feel like they must work every night and weekend for free without compensation. With the start of the next school year, if no NJRTC negotiated supplement is in place, I'm going to fall back to my normally contracted hours. I'm going to give the cadets and my job 100% effort right up until 2:30 when I'm going to go home. When the cadets and the parents ask why I don't work 11-hour days anymore, or don't work on the weekends, or don't put in my 1,000 hours of annual overtime, my response is going to be the Clay County School District does not see their NJRTC competition and community service success story as a priority worth investing in. I'm still holding out for a hope that this august group will make the NJRTC cadets and instructors a priority. And I apologize to the support members for taking up your time tonight. I'm fully behind you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commander Thurman. Okay, that's it for our presentations from the audience. Superintendent requests.
I don't have anything else for you.
School board requests.
I'd like to thank everyone who came and to speak to us tonight. You brought forth a lot of diverse issues and things that we definitely wanted to hear, and we appreciate your time and the nervousness to come up and speak in front of people. The only thing that I wanted to say is that I learned something today. I don't know if she's here, but or yesterday, I had a conversation with Lana Racine Hafner, who is our principal for Clay Virtual School. And so I just wanted to tell you what I learned so that you can get the word out and clear up some questions and concerns that we should be telling our parents about Clay Virtual, not concerns about Clay Virtual, but about the process. Because I had a number of parents call me and say, how do you sign up? And I thought you sign up through Clay Virtual on One Clay website. And so here's what I learned, and the truth is that there's a brochure that's available, and maybe we can send it out, put it out, you know, more available on the website. But you go to the Florida Virtual School website to sign up, but then it directs you through Clay Virtual because they are a franchise of Florida Virtual. But we really need to direct our students that are taking those online classes to go through Clay Virtual. What she told me, which made me very proud, is that we, through Clay Virtual, offer every class that Florida Virtual offers with the exception of Latin, Chinese, and a couple of the technical computer classes. So unless a student is taking those, we should be able to keep those FTE dollars in our county, which should be able to help the budget. So if you have questions, Lana is available through email and through phone call, as well as her staff, and I found them to be very helpful. But I know that, well, I called her because I had my child, he had signed up for his online class, and that required online class to graduate, and I said, no, you're not taking a Florida Virtual. And he said, Mom, this is the way you do it. So I called to get the real information, but we're signed up through Clay Virtual, and hopefully you can get your students and get the word out so that we can keep those FTE dollars. That's all.
Ms. Kirkus?
Yeah, I have some questions about, we had a workshop on hiring a new attorney, and I wanted to know, have we put an ad together? Have we selected dates to run it? What the process is? How far into it are we? I had some suggestions for it, and so I'd like an update on that. If we've gotten that far. I mean, I know we're at the start of the school year, so we may not have gotten to it, which is fine.
Okay. Well, Mr. Broski, do you care to give an update, or do we need to prep when I didn't have anything together?
We're in the process of putting that ad together. We understood the board wants a $90,000 cap to include all legal fees, which would include the paralegal in addition to that. We'll form that advertisement. We'll go ahead and we'll put it out to the two organizations stipulated. So that'll occur shortly.
And
can we see that, though? I think we all wanted to see it before you put it out.
Certainly.
Great.
I had some suggestions. I think that it should run for probably 30 days, but I'm not sure what the normal required time or anything would be. And then, we never really talked about the process of once those applications come in. I would imagine if we ran it for 30 days, you would compile them all. At the end of the 30 days, you would send them to the board, give us maybe 2 weeks or so to look at them. And I'm just throwing this out, but let's say we had more than 10 applicants, maybe do a workshop to narrow them down to 5. But if we have less than 10, maybe that workshop could be when we interviewed them or something like that. And then, maybe the November meeting is when we could, choose who or what. I'm just kind of wondering where we're at with it. And, I do think we should see that application before it goes, and just wanted to be updated with that.
Okay, yeah.
We were very general and vague in
Right.
how we spoke about it, so that was it. Again, I'm glad we were off to a smooth start this year. I'm glad to hear that enrollment is up. I know we've all heard everybody who's spoken here tonight, and we're listening to you. So I just want to say thank you for coming and talking to us. I know it's hard to do that. As Ms. Condon said, it's nerve-wracking. I know even us as board members, sometimes we get very nervous. And so I appreciate you coming out and giving us your time. And here we are. It's almost 10 o'clock, so 3 hours of your time. Thank you. That's it for me.
Ms. Gilhousen?
I'll just echo your remarks in appreciation for you all taking the time to come and speak to us tonight. I want you to know how deeply we value the work that you do every day, especially those of us who have children in school and see it on a daily basis, the hard work that you put in, the extra things that you do that nobody says thank you for. So I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart, you are very, very much appreciated. And hopefully at the end of the fourth calculation, we will have some extra money to show a tangible appreciation to you. And I just will echo your remarks on how glad I am that we had such a smooth start to the school year. I put my firstborn in kindergarten this year, so it was a big year for us. And Lake Asbury Elementary did a beautiful job of getting us ready for that day. And I just want to applaud the PFA on the Boohoo breakfast that they hosted for all of us new kindergarten parents. It was much needed and much appreciated. So I hope that everybody has a good rest of the beginning of the year.
Boohoo breakfast, I love it. That's as good as Tank Top Tuesday.
Yeah, Boohoo breakfast, yeah, I love it.
I can honestly say I think that I have had less phone calls this year than I can ever remember at the start of school, and for that I think our employees need to be thanked, because y'all did it. You got them there, you fed them, you educated them. I mean, everything's going good so far, knock on wood. On a more serious note, I do want to say I know it took a lot of gumption to get up and speak tonight, and a lot of you spoke who I'd never heard before, and I was very touched by some of the things that were said. This board is listening to y'all. Don't think we're not. We're in a tight spot right now, so but you touched us, and thank you for what you do.
I also want to echo basically everything that each of my board colleagues have said. I heard comments tonight about you guys don't care and you're not listening, and I want you to know that I do care and I am listening, and you guys are very much appreciated for everything you do. But as Ms. Studdard said, we are really, really in a tight spot, and I know that everybody here wants to be able to offer those pay raises, and providing that the fourth calculation comes in, we are going to look at it. We're not going to ignore you guys. We're going to look at it. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and we are listening to you. And as far as starting the school year, again, I didn't get any phone calls. I heard that it was very, very successful, and I just want to thank you all for your dedication. And with that, that's all I have.
May I ask
attorney
a question?
requests.
Do we have an executive session after this meeting tonight?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
All right.
Attorney requests?
I have nothing, ma'am.
Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned.